Hey guys, this is Dave with BTM Reviews. How's everybody doing tonight? Hope you're doing well. Tonight is a different show than last night for sure. Uh, no no spurging out on you know gay stuff. At least not for starters. So we've got a good topic tonight. It's something that Jim likes to talk about a lot. So he's got a bunch of videos pulled up, and it's something I believe in, and I think that's probably happened many times. And I'm going to kind of get the science behind it, Jim. It's going to be interesting.
Yep.
To
Interesting.
hear. But I think it's going to be cool to hear from our boy who does our solar flare updates every day. To hear him actually talk about science for more than 3 minutes, right?
And this is why he does the solar flare updates every day.
Right. It's interesting though. I think it'll be fun. Why not? Let's we've explored other things. We still got a lot more we can do on the Anunnaki and all that stuff too, Jim.
Oh yeah, Anunnaki's very untapped
cryptids. We could actually focus on specific cryptids rather than just Bigfoot, because we did like a list for each state one night, right?
Yeah, we could get into some other stuff with that. Like we've got to probably do like actual just series on like pick a specific thing, like the chupacabra.
Right.
Go.
Right.
Mothman.
Yeah, Mothman's a bit. Mothman sightings in Chicago are crazy, dude. Have you seen those?
Yeah, but that's just from the drugs.
But they're seeing them a lot around O'Hare. Wow. So, another disaster ready to happen. What's up, Nicholas?
Hey, what is Mothman?
So Mothman's from West Virginia originally. Some kids were out one night and they saw it, and they jumped in their car and they started driving down the highway. They got to 100 miles an hour driving back to town, and Mothman was flying behind them. And then that same month or two, there was I think another 100 sightings of Mothman.
Think of Mothman's kind of like Batman, only you can defeat him with the bat signal.
Right. Then, he's related to bad things happening in that town, because in 1971 or something, a bridge collapsed, killing 45 people.
Yeah, it was a Richard Gere movie or whatever.
Yeah.
Wasn't
It was it was Richard Gere, and who was in that with him? Who played Mothman? Was that Richard Gere was the investigator, right? But who played Mothman?
Oh, was that, what's her name?
Butterfly Effect. Butterfly Effect was another one, right?
No, the Butterfly Effect was just different, completely different. It was like a
take
drug acid trip.
Butterfly Effect was?
Yeah. Time travel type of.
Okay. Well, either way, but Mothman lore has been going on since the 60s. And they keep seeing him further and further out of West Virginia too, Jim. So I think they've actually got a museum.
He's migrating.
Yeah, next time you're in West Virginia for whatever reason, stop by the Mothman Museum, because they have one. Well, who we got in the chat? We got a lot of people here, Jim. We got Simply Green. How are you? Bear Knight. What's up, Elemental MJ? Jin Wong. Hail to you. Shadow Hawk Talks. Nice to see you. Critical Thinking. Yep. How are you? Too White. I have my tinfoil hat ready. Cool. You might want to double layer it, because does he go into how many times he thinks it's been reset, Jim?
Well, just he thinks it happens every 12,000 years.
Okay. What's up, Andrew? Yeah. Music. Good to see you. Cryptic Conversation. Crazy, but I was thinking about a reset earlier today. According to Solon, via Plato, it does seem to be a thing. Yeah. When you get as old as we get, Jim, you hear about this stuff growing up, and you're like, oh, that sounds silly. And then you think about it and you go, wait a minute. It's silly to think it hasn't been reset. Because if this is the best we've got in all of humanity, Nicholas, I mean, why aren't we flying to the moon yet? Why don't we have flying cars? Because I think by the time we get to that technology, reset this
Imagine
stuff.
the accidents if we had flying cars.
They would probably make them fucking, you couldn't control them, right? Like,
Yeah, I would hope so.
I like being in control of my car, though. I don't like not being in control of my car. I had a truck. I had a Ford F-150 Power Boost truck, and it did all the self-driving stuff, but it only worked on the highway. It wouldn't do it on city streets because Ford had not put in the work yet like Tesla did and drove every road so that you could go on every road with a Tesla. But I'd get on the highway. I did drive from my house to Arkansas and never touch the gas pedal. I let the truck do it the whole way and let it steer. My wife was so nervous for 8 hours, dude. But it did a great job.
Most have experiences like lane assist.
Honestly, you can't have flying cars and terrorists. Maybe that's why they don't do it, Jim.
It's actually a company they're somewhere. I think I can't remember what the name of it's called. That they're working on some kind of like air taxis.
Well, they've had little kind of stuff like that for like the
Dude,
super rich
They
for a
just
while.
barely license. I mean, they license drones now. They're that worried about the airspace. How are they going to let cars fly around?
I don't know. I saw something. I could look it up if you want. It was a couple weeks ago. I saw some. I can't remember the name of it. It was like an advertisement for it.
I could see, like, if you lived out in the desert somewhere, that'd be cool. You know, like Luke Skywalker, and you just had your little air thing elevated above ground, your little ship elevated. That'd be cool. But living in the city, no way.
Oh. Well, look at it. C. Dynasty is in the chat. The causer of all the trouble lately with all the tweets.
What is that? Oh, the fake tweets?
I don't know if they're fake, man. I mean, if it's not, until somebody could show me proof that it's fake, I believe everything I see on the internet.
Absolutely.
That's how it works.
Mhm.
You can't necessarily prove a tweet isn't real unless you can already tell just by looking at it.
Yeah. I mean, and especially with the way it's written, it sounds like Eric, the way Eric talks and writes. So I don't know.
Yeah, but if things are way too good to be true, they're probably not.
I don't know, man.
Oh, no, dude.
He'll accidentally walk into stuff, but he won't literally spell it out for you like that.
I don't know.
But he doesn't remember what he said 30 days ago, Nicholas. Let's get off that topic. I don't care.
All right, yeah, let's
I don't
get.
give
We
a
got
shit.
important stuff to talk about.
It's exactly right.
Good morning, folks. We're going to be talking about star crusts and revisit the magnetar effect. The big science news of the last day was the discovery of Earth's ambipolar electric field. We are also checking out a bit of space weather, and we're starting with the last 24 hours on our star. Left side is where all the fun is. Several CMEs erupted, not aimed at Earth, all aimed towards Venus. We still have sunspots and plasma filaments to monitor, but so far solar flares and Earth-directed CMEs are absent. We'll keep watching. Moving next to strange stars with crusts. This is not a new idea, but it's one that has deserved much more coverage than it's gotten the last decade. Here they discuss magnetars and...
You know what kind of a star that's really crusty? Robert De Niro. That's a crusty fuck. I wish he would just go away.
similar
Right.
magnetic stars which display characteristics of having a crust, almost like a giant planet that got juiced up. This brings us back to the magnetar discharge from L shell fields arcing.
Did he just say the magnetard discharge? So our planet is a giant magnetard?
Sounds like it.
No wonder there's so many tards everywhere.
Downward and cracking the crust. Veteran observers have spent considerable time pondering if such an event can affect geological formations on Earth, Mars, and other bodies. Top story is the global electric field. This is the interface region between the global electric circuit in the atmosphere and ionosphere and the charged environment of space and the solar wind. Particles flow into the Earth's system via the solar wind. The top of the global electric circuit in the ionosphere bleeds upward much further than has been previously discovered. This creates the electric field extending into near-Earth space and helping with the particle release from the upper atmosphere. The inflow and outflow of material are real. This extension of the global electric field also makes it about 1,000 times easier for solar wind and geomagnetic activity to impact the electromagnetic dynamics that end up trickling down through the atmosphere to affect clouds, water droplets, temperature, pressure, wind, and precipitation. Folks, tomorrow the end of the month special issue of Observer Review will come out. It is a focused piece on solar forcing of weather and climate, basically a book chapter of key solar atmospheric effects discovered in the last year. Sign up for the e-magazine at the link below. It is the best way to stay up to date each month and the best way to support the Observers. And also, folks, tomorrow the grand opening events of Observer Ranch begin. Excited to see so many of you and eager to see many more in the months ahead. Reservations and information at observerranch.com. We greatly appreciate your support. We'll do this all again tomorrow, right here, but right now at 6 a.m. in the new Valley of the Sun. Eyes open, no fear. Be safe, everyone.
So the videos we're going to be watching, Nick, are made by him. So,
Okay.
you know, we obviously know that he's got a long history doing this, Jim. He's a PhD, right?
Double PhD.
Double PhD. So he's not just a conspiracy theory guy. He's actually he's doing the science. He's doing the science. So,
yeah, he was a mainstream, academic science researcher and everything, and living his life came across what he believes is proof, evidence that this disaster is coming and this is what's going to cause it. Thinks he discovered it. So changed his whole life, and basically, like he used to be kind of tubby and out of shape, and now he's like all in shape and jacked and lives in the mountains and, waiting for this to happen.
He's not living in fear. He's just
he's preparing. He thinks you got to get prepared. He's basically that. It's happened. It happens every 12,000 years, and humans have survived it numerous times because we've been around for hundreds of thousands of years. So we survive. So you can survive. It's just you have to be ready. What the modern human that lives in a city, it would be fucked if you have no survival skills when there's no electricity and no food in the grocery store.
Right. But that's not what he's not telling you to be a prepper in any of these videos, right?
Well, you kind of got to be a little bit of a prepper.
Well, in order to survive, you do. If you're not, you're screwed. You're not going to McDonald's anymore, right? But I'm saying, does he say that in these videos we're going to watch?
He's more worried about telling people that they need to be in their location when this happens. They need to be where they're going to not get drowned by the water.
Wait a minute.
He's worried about the flood that's going to follow.
Right.
Why is there going to be a flood that follows?
Well, he thinks that the entire crust of the earth is going to slip and move. He believes that the earth, every 12,000 years, that the North Pole flips down to the equator and stuff moves, and then 12,000, and then it flips back. It does this every 12,000 years, back and forth.
Which would cause a flood.
Yeah, and there's signs of these massive floods all across the world, and huge tsunamis across like the continent of Africa and through America and all over. There's these signs of these giant tsunamis, but I don't know if that's what caused them, or was it an asteroid, a meteor?
Spinning. We're constantly spinning.
Correct. So we're constantly spinning, and our crust is floating on magma. Correct. So if this is his theory. So I'm not saying this is the truth. This is what they tell us, that we're floating on top of liquid shit, basically.
Well,
it's not solid.
But that's pretty far down where that magma layer is.
Well, the crust is thick, dude. You got to dig through a lot of earth to get out of the crust of the earth. Yeah. It's thick.
But it's not
like it's going to tip over like a pool.
No. But what, like Einstein believed this too.
Right.
That this happened. That just in it. He believes that what happens is when the Earth gets hit by this micronova from the sun that happens cyclically, that it causes the electrical charges, the Earth to get electrically supercharged and heat up basically and all this stuff. So it increases viscosity and causes, because the Earth is spinning, so then it causes stuff to slip basically. The Earth's going to slip. I don't know. To me, the part I don't believe is that it would always just keep going back. We're tilted and spinning, but that it's something like the speed, like stuff does change the speed that the Earth spins. Storms, weather can change the speed of the Earth's spin, and everything changes the length of the day and all that stuff. So I don't know. So
the sun is a much more influential force in how we spin. That's almost
correct. So if the sun blasted us really with something might happen. Like I'm not saying this is factual. I'm just saying this is what this guy thinks. And then there's all these stories about how the sun stood still or set in the east and did weird things. And I don't know, maybe that's where these stories come from. That the Earth, you know what I mean? So the sun's still there, and then the Earth moves way it's not supposed to, so the sun just looks like it's stopped moving. So, you know what I mean? But anyway, I have a video here pulled up. Oh, wait, no, wrong one.
Yeah.
So he's got a long, hour and 40-minute documentary video, basically breaking down everything. But I thought we'd start with a shorter video that kind of jumps into some stuff and
bullet point stuff.
Yeah,
and if you wanted to pause, Nicholas, you know the role, you know what to do. So the next disaster, part 1: ice, fire, magnetism. Okay, let's hear.
Pause.
There is a lot of discussion online about disaster. I don't stand with the mainstream view of randomly distributed upheavals on this planet throughout time. I also do not stand with these people who are calling out doom and gloom every single week, who get scared every time they hear some Russian scientist said something or that a CME might be coming our way. But make no mistake, there is something coming, and there is no technology that can stop it. Again, it is a middle-of-the-road event in terms of extinction. It's not doomsday. The 27 million year extinction cycle, that's doomsday. The sun turning into a red giant, that's doomsday. The reality is a significant biosphere stress event accompanies a 12,000 year cycle. Humans survive them every time, and we simply should not ignore what's coming or we'll take a larger hit than we need to as a species. So here's the issue, and we'll start with the cold epochs of Earth. These are much shorter in time scale than the 100,000 year ice age cycle, and I've labeled some certain ones because while every coring has seemingly random jagged up and downs, there are some that are well documented to exist throughout the time scale and almost all of the locations surveyed. The Heinrich events are spread across time, and these dates should be familiar to veteran observers. 12,000 years ago. H1 indeed needs better citation as it's really closer to 18,000 years ago in the more recent literature. 24,000 years ago up next. H3 might be unfamiliar at the moment, but H4 is not in the late 30,000 years ago range. Neither is H5 in the 45,000 years ago range, or H6 about 60,000 years ago. Let's take a look at this another way.
So he's
We're going to plot the years ago in yellow.
He knows about, Jim?
That they found evidence of some weird stuff going on, which has to do with magnetic reversals.
With all the coring that they do?
Right, and then there was a really cold snap that happened because of it.
So this isn't necessarily connected with the poles flipping.
No, this is.
It'll get there.
Okay.
Yeah.
It'll get there.
Yeah. The cows
Yellow
did
and pink
nobody.
at the bottom, and we'll explain that momentarily. This chart only covers 8,000 to 50,000 years ago, so H6 is not on here. But the gray vertical bars are the recognized Heinrich events we just saw, and the variation over the multi-location data curve shows how much muddying there is in these waters. But I've labeled some things on here. Yellow are the magnetic excursions of Earth, about every 12,000 years, and pink are the half cycles, which match the 12,000 and 6,000 year eruption cycles of the sun, respectively. 12,000 years ago, it was the Younger Dryas cold event, immediately following the Gothenburg magnetic excursion. 18,000 years ago, it was the half-cycle Helena-Pali minor excursion event and coinciding Heinrich event. 24,000 years ago was the Lake Mungo magnetic excursion,
gonna
matching
smile at
another
that.
Heinrich event. And the next half-cycle is not named, but it was clearly bad, likely due to volcanic activity. Now, about 36,000 years ago, there is no recognized Heinrich event, but there are papers suggesting it should be included, and you can probably see why, especially in the black and above in the pink. And another we'll see in a minute. And yes, it's not all of the curve.
I don't think
Anytime
I
the-
understood a single fucking thing this guy said.
You know, anytime the black gets into the pink, I think it's a problem. That's what he
Yeah.
said.
That's what he said.
But then again, look around. No Heinrich events show up in all of them, or even most of them. H4, somewhat awkward. It really only shows up in the black line, and it's not much worse than the previous down spikes, one of which would certainly hit the next half cycle before the Le Champ excursion, the most well-known magnetic excursion of all, around 45, 46, maybe as late as 48,000 years ago, leading directly into H5. So there absolutely is a less cluttered way to look at these major events during magnetic excursions and their half cycles, which again match the two scariest cycle levels of the sun. A, B, C, and D are now on there, and those are the magnetic excursions. The blue line on here is the other one I promised, and you'd see that matches the Mono Lake excursion event that we were angling for a moment ago. Now, when we add A1, B1, and so on for the half cycle events, this is really starting to match up. And one can try to take this cycle back all the way to the Blake excursion and past, but it gets very difficult. It is helpful to look only back to the Toba event 72,000 years ago because the approximately 12,000 year excursion cycle has held up pretty well since then. We recently shared this chart on suspiciousobservers.org, and knowing that these magnetic excursions come with major cold events, if not officially recognized Heinrich events immediately thereafter, here are the major volcanic eruptions that match up with those time periods within the error ranges, and the biosphere stresses on the right.
So,
All
Jim,
but the Vostok Greenland event.
they're taking these dates for volcanic eruptions based on ash samples they get when they do these core samples. I mean,
I don't know. Something. They could
ain't
be
writ-
making it up for all I know.
well, it ain't written down anywhere.
No, it's just some science. You know, they just scientists always
you
looking
might
for
be able
stuff.
can necessarily cross-reference that, but it would also be what's the uniqueness of those events. Were there a bunch of those also around there too? You know,
Well, I mean, they're actually given the locations. These are candidates. Okay.
No,
so
that's
these
that's where they made the discovery. Is what gives the name. You know, where they found these evidence of this happening.
when it says volcanic candidates.
Yeah, like well, no, that's where they think that they
think
timed
it
it to the that those happened there. That they dated these volcanic activity to that time frame.
In those areas. Okay.
Right.
All right.
because we have had like probably, I mean, we've had pretty big volcanic eruptions in recorded history.
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
I think we can survive them better now, though.
Well, it
More
depends
people.
on how close they are to where you're living, and it also
But I'm talking about like this 72,000 year ago event. 5,000 fucking people lived. Largest bottleneck in history.
I mean, that's what they think. You know, that's what their estimates are. I don't know. You know,
Right. I know. Who knows? It's not written down. This is all, what do they call it? Speculation, Jim, attached to some science that they do by drilling holes.
yeah,
in
I've
the
heard
ground.
that. I've heard that the human, if you look at human DNA, it does suggest that quite a long time ago that a great bottleneck existed.
Mhm.
So I have heard that before.
that could also be when the Anunnaki created the human race. Maybe.
Those are the ones
Maybe.
that they
Could be. I mean, nobody knows when the Anunnaki were even here. There's no. I mean, it's not like they're saying they were here 12,000 years ago. They could have been here 72,000 years ago for sure. Yeah, I watched Nick's show today when I was driving. All he did was talk about April's case last night. Did you watch it, Jim?
Some of it, you know, I didn't make, you know,
No, I mean, he's gonna fight hard to find why the state's wrong, which he should do. He's a lawyer trying to defend a case. Pretty sure we're a hybrid series. Yeah, I definitely think we're a hybrid series or a race of people, species.
Oh,
Hey,
we're
what's up,
definitely,
Immoral?
at least white people and Asians are a combination of Homo sapien and Homo neanderthalis.
Yeah, right.
These are bigger and stronger.
Any updates I need to be aware of in the Anti-Ripper Alliance?
I don't know what that is.
You should probably watch Indiana Jones. It's a real good movie, dude. That I'm going to give you. That's what the Ripper Alliance is all about. Shit we like. It ain't about stuff we don't like. We don't care. If anybody thinks when I'm not doing a show, I think about that shit at all, you're out of your fucking minds. I come on the show and we talk about that, but once it's over, it's like my job. I can turn that shit off, dude. I don't spend my day thinking about retards on the internet like Eric or Gary or anything like that. So the magnetic event, this is where they're registering them, Jim, like Gothenburg.
It's where they found the evidence.
The
That's
evidence.
what they got the name. It was named where they found these magnetic dipoles or whatever.
Okay, but if it affected the entire planet like a magnetic shift, wouldn't they find it anywhere? Like,
well, not if the bunch of water went and washed everything away and stuff moved and was covered in covered in stuff and.
But they
I
wouldn't be
wouldn't
able to.
change the magnetic.
No, but if it's covered with something or I don't know, man.
That might protect it. If anything,
Oh,
it'll
you're
protect it
saying
from
like the
changing
land
after.
shift.
Shift.
It went from a desert to a mountainous area kind of thing.
Right.
That kind of, yeah, I got it. Okay. Yeah. All right.
Well, that's through plate tectonics, and stuff.
Well, hey, listen, we don't know if it's
Mountain from flood.
Hey, dude,
expanding Earth or plate
expanding Earth says there are
tectonics.
no tectonics. It's just
Well,
a
how the
natural.
mountains form.
They just
When the-
naturally expanded. They weren't tectonic plates. You need to pay attention more, Nicholas. This is an educational
see it.
class.
Look at most mountains. You can see how it's just sort of like it went like that.
Really?
Yes.
That's because you were taught that. Yeah. Why aren't they doing it now? Just like the whole evolution thing. Why aren't we
They
evolving?
are.
Who's evolving?
They lose
Who's
like
evolving?
18. They use like 18 something inches, centimeters in the Pacific Ocean every year. It goes in.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Good talk.
Have clear candidates, and they include megafaunal extinctions. The Toba event was the last time humans actually came close to not making it in one of these, but the Lake Mungo event, the only major human effect, was the abandonment of settlement regions in the West African region that had been definitively used for 40,000 years, back to 65,000 years ago, since the resettlement after Toba. Of course, not only is it a magnetic excursion, climate event, volcanic disasters, and biosphere stress. And it's not just that the cycle is due again now, and we happen to see the magnetic field of Earth changing in the exact way expected, accelerating every few years, but it's also the isotopes in the bones and surge deposits, and in the microtectites, and the stories of the black sun and the insistence of a solar instigation of the disaster. This is not doomsday, and while both Western and Eastern antiquity describe these events, I see far more evidence for the non-cataclysmic cycle of rebirth than the end of all. Humans are not going extinct, but this is more of a threat than most of the things people flex on and flash up. I say no fear, because fear is a thief of time and focus, and you'll need both to live your life and actively remain informed and prepared for the future. Same principle as insurance. Don't be a denier of this pattern or its imminent return, and don't think every little thing is the end. That'll get old pretty quick. I'll see you in the morning for the daily show, and more special videos before the new year. Be safe, everyone.
It's good he's not doomsaying.
He's not selling fear at all. Now,
Was he
this is the
selling
next one.
products?
Well, he does have a campsite that he just opened up this week, and it's his own ranch, and if the disaster happens, you own a lot, you can go to the mountains in Colorado, and that's what he's saying. You'll be high enough the water surge, right, Jim?
That's what he's saying.
Hopefully.
If he's right.
Yeah, because if it shifts and those mountains shift with it, some of them might come crumbling down. But either way, that's what he sells.
Shaking out a couch cushion.
Yeah. Right.
First, a review. In part 1, we went over the Heinrich events, the cold epochs of Earth, the magnetic shifts, the
He's half boner,
excursions,
Kevin.
and their half cycles matching up with the Heinrich events and cold events. Even where the suspiciously long gap in the recognized events does have a major down spike indeed, and it's on the cycle mark. On top of the magnetic events and cold matching up, there are volcanoes and biosphere stresses associated as well. Combined, we need to explain all this evidence and the cycle, including the inclusion of nova-level isotopes in the microtectites and bones of animals in the surge deposits from those periods. To explain everything together, we need a major event on the Sun. And to explain the ongoing process, the cycle, we may need something a bit more. When Billy hit the juice to the sphere magnet in our plasma lab, I knew immediately what we were seeing. The flare activity in the electric corona, the torus around the belly. It was what would be expected of an electrodynamic sphere magnet system. It doesn't just work in the lab. It works at planets, stars, and galaxies, and the best we have to study is the solar wind current sheet. It separates the interplanetary magnetic field of the sun's solar wind, denoting the magnetic reversal point, extending out from the interior torus and bringing a plasma density shift. While it takes a year for us to orbit the sun and we cross the sun's equator only twice in that year, the current sheet hits Earth every 7 to 10 days for a couple hours. This sheet delivers geomagnetic unrest, can trigger full-fledged geomagnetic storms, and induces current into the atmosphere and the ground. Now on the galactic level, the sheet isn't much different, whether an active star-bursting galaxy or a more stable and mature one like our Milky Way. Just as the solar wind Parker spiral matches the spiral arms of the galaxy, the sun's current sheet matches the rippling electric field of the galaxy. The main difference in character is while the sun has cleared the dust levels in the solar system, the galactic sheet carries it from the galaxy, from the nova events, and from the stars pushing it out into the interstellar medium.
How are they measuring? I don't know. Like, what's this? I'd love to know how you measuring this stuff. What's out there you haven't?
They got satellites and stuff up there taking measurements. There's a bunch of satellites monitoring all the stuff.
Well, you can, if you could tell a signal, like a magnetic signal or electrical signal, there's certain features about it where you could be able to, I guess, the width of it, which is essentially the frequency of it, would be the width. I think that's they're equivalent to each other. How wide it is.
And it's just like, who the hell was sitting around one day and said, you know what? I'm going to start measuring the electromagnetic impulse from the sun, Jim. And that's what I'm going to do. And then I'm going to make something, I'm going to try and do some investigation into this and see if, it matches up with these core samples. I mean, it just goes on to a whole career, and he's got 2 PhDs and all this stuff. It's crazy. It's crazy. And he's probably not the first guy that did this kind of work.
Oh, no. They don't. I mean, NASA and all them and NOAA, the different things, they're monitoring all this stuff because they know it affects the planet, it affects our weather. They know it can take out satellites and do stuff. So they're always watching for the stuff, and they're just monitoring things. They're picking up other stuff, and they're like, why are we getting this? Why is this happening? They just keep going and researching and looking at stuff and compiling.
And they keep building more bunkers.
Yeah, compiling the data and building bunkers and, seed banks and stuff. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Why are you building that if nothing's happening?
Well, something's always going to happen. There's no choice for something not to happen. It just depends upon when it's going to happen.
Well, unless it's a Rippaverse comic book, then nothing happens.
Given that we are further out in the galaxy than Earth is relatively in the solar system, a good approximation is that the solar system spends about 200 or so years within the sheet of the galaxy every 12,000 years or so as we orbit the galaxy on the millions of year scale. Now, in part 1, we arrived at the sun from the Earth evidence. Can we do the same from the galaxy using a cyclic crossing of the galactic current sheet, plasma and dust fluctuations, and the galactic magnetic reversal that comes with it? Well, first, we have to start with what stars do. There are many kinds of nova, and most are not supernova. Most are recurrent, over and over, with the appropriate instigation. The most well-studied mechanism for recurring nova is when a white dwarf star sucks material off a degenerate giant star. It accumulates in the atmosphere, blocks the outward light and particle escape, and then the star blows off that accumulated outer shell. But what we've been watching is that model breaking down. Now they include plasma turbulence triggers, recognize many recurrent nova to have no partner, and many that show different kinds of stars feeding the material for accretion. And as the poor little star found out when it wandered into a molecular cloud and exploded, really all you need is some way to begin that accretion or accumulation process. These developments, expanding the potential triggering mechanisms for smaller versions of the nova most of us think about, came simultaneously with confirmation of the need for recent nearby nova events. You see, not only do we have those nova isotopes, but some of them have half-lives that tell us they shouldn't be here because they couldn't have been here when the solar system formed. That's too long ago. And they likely didn't come from far away because they wouldn't have arrived before the half-life expired the sample. Then, when we finally modeled magnetic fields of nova remnants, they found the dust carrying the isotopes cannot even escape the remnant. It's trapped like a dusty magnetic pinball. Oh, it is a recent nearby nova indeed. Very nearby. So cyclically, predictably, in a pattern, the
Hold on
solar
a second.
system will be hit with a
Was
galactic...
it- I thought novas were when a star exploded. How can a star explode multiple
Well,
times?
it's not a supernova. Supernova is when it explodes. A micronova
No,
is just,
a nova is
a
when
nova is just
star-
an event of the
that
star.
depends on how big
Right.
the star was to begin with.
Yeah, yeah.
And what
They've
stage it
discovered that
exploded
they've discovered that stars do this
at.
thing
If it
where they have
explodes,
like
there's nothing left of it.
no, it just
Right.
it builds up this crust and then it blows it off. Material collects on the sun or a
Yeah.
star, and then
Right.
it blows it off. So it could make the sun turn black for the day, like is in the Bible and other stuff, and then poof.
Right. Right.
Like a star backfiring.
Yeah.
Simply great.
I don't know. I mean, just here to learn.
Well, I bet this
How's
guy
it
would.
going in like a spiral? I don't get that.
Everything seems to be like spirals and waves.
Well, electromagnetic signals are a circle. I mean, that's what I deal with every day. And they're just based on frequency and stuff like that. So, and you can measure the circle around what it's, you've put the signal on, and you can tell how deep the line is or whatever, based on where you're measuring the center of that circle. So it's all the electromagnetic stuff is a circle, and it's measurable. When it doesn't stay a circle is when there's something close to it and it's distorting the signal. So it's not going to be distorted in space. So it's going to be a perfect circle. So this is going to be really easy for them to measure compared to a downtown city street. And there's 14 fucking utilities buried on one side of the street. And you put a signal on one, you might pick up another 5. So just saying. But that's how you locate with electromagnetism.
the current sheet. Its galactic magnetic reversal and
You're right.
plasma character will induce electric currents on the sun, and overall magnetic perturbations, all while the extra dust and gas attracted by the galactic sheet like a Swiffer duster would in your home, is delivered to the inner solar system to potentially accumulate in the sun's atmosphere. The Earth evidence says we need a nova on a cycle because magnetic excursions, volcanoes, and cold events shouldn't be coming together in a pattern unless there is also a pattern of a massive electromagnetic blast from the sun, whose dust blocks out the sunlight thereafter to cool the world, and which induces so much electricity into the mantle it triggers major volcanoes. The galactic sheet is set to deliver the electromagnetic and particle requirements to the sun every 12,000 years, and there's your cycle. And what do you know? Both that paper from Christmas Day and the confirmation in the top geophysical outlet on Earth describe how the sun's current sheet electrodynamically couples with our planet,
clouds up the Earth, agglomerating and accumulating the dust and water vapor and aerosols together. And that's literally the exact thing we're describing with the recurrent solar micronova, only the galactic sheet also delivers a ton of dust. And this is where the Earth evidence meets the implications of the applied galactic astrophysics of a rotating plasma, electric field, and sphere magnet system. And now is a good time to mention that all of catastrophism comes down to three things. The whole has only three pieces. Number one, the evidence of the past. We went over much of that in part one, although we didn't touch the massive waves that do seem to deluge the planet during these times. This is important because you can't know there is a cycle until you have the information. Number two, the disaster mechanism. Using that evidence and what you know scientifically, you formulate a hypothesis for how this disaster works. Most of the time, it does not match up as well as it does in this video, coming from both sides. And number three, predicting the next one. That's it. Everything in catastrophism can be broken down into the evidence, the mechanism, and the foresight. The purpose of deciphering the evidence on Earth is to develop a mechanism, which we did and explained in these first two parts of the series. In part 3, coming before the new year, we'll do number 3, predict the next one. Once again, using evidence from the surroundings and the ongoing progress of the galactic sheet mechanism, as it is already being observed, with changes here at the Earth, the other planets, and the nearby stars. Subscribe, and I'll see you for the morning update. Be safe, everyone.
Be safe, everyone. Everybody be
Welcome
safe.
to part.
So what'd you think about that one, Jim?
Mhm.
I mean,
Makes total sense. Everyone should buy my book.
well, being able to measure the electromagnetism, now that I know that's what it is, like that's easy. Like there's plenty of ways people can measure that stuff. They've been doing it for 100 years, probably 120 at this point. So the first, like,
You ever hooked a magnet up to a car battery?
no, I don't fuck around with electricity too much. Kind of respect
Try
it.
it.
No, I won't. Yeah, I'll be dangerous and reckless. I prefer being unsafe, says immoral. Yeah, I don't know, man. This, oh God, Jim, I do a whole fucking training on this stuff with the electromagnetism stuff. And Faraday's the first guy. It was in like the 1700s who found electric current, Jim. He's the first guy. So it's kind of wild. Like it's been around that long. They just know how to harness it, right? They didn't know how to generate it, but they found it. So if this guy Faraday found it. Yeah.
Like all my
simply-
analog synthesizers work off the same kind of principles and stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah, well, that's why a capacitor is measured in farads, microfarads, picofarads.
Yep. It's all Faraday stuff. I mean, and this guy didn't have cool equipment, right? Like he just figured it
The
out.
Earth is basically a giant capacitor. Stores energy, releases energy.
Sure.
No.
Yeah. Who's to say that the Earth doesn't fucking get a big old coating of shit on it and blows it off every 12,000 years? Maybe
Could
that's
get a
what's
big
happening.
coating, and that's what makes it grow.
Maybe.
I want an MS-20.
3. When will it happen? This material is pretty well broken out in our full series, and we will be referencing a few videos you can watch to learn more. But first, we have to clarify this question. How long until what exactly? The magnetic excursion? Great waves of the cyclical deluge? The solar micronova? For me, the question is always, when will society struggle? When will we need to begin to employ preparations and survival? Lots of ways to try to gauge it. In Signs of the Sky Now and Nearby Super Flares, we went over the nearby stars and how the ones closest towards the center of the galaxy have had unprecedented outbursts, including a small, weak star pretty much in line with our own. We've interpreted that as the galactic sheet taking over at those stars, but it's not a momentary event. The other planets have been changing for years, and Earth's magnetic changes really geared up back in 1859. This is indeed a few hundred years inside the galactic sheet, every 12,000-year cycle, and there's no way to tell exactly when the sun will be overcome. But there's no way society makes it to that. The magnetic excursion of Earth is going to leave us without power and most of society long before the crescendo. In the full Cosmic Disaster film and some of the 2019 series, we went over how you can easily see the changes on the sun beforehand. It's not like it could just look as it does every day and then all of a sudden micronova. When it's something obvious and unfamiliar, it's time, and you'll need to be diligent because there won't be an internet when that happens. That's the imminent concern. When will we have to start surviving? One big solar storm this cycle and it could be over just like that. It is my 100% position that we will lose it all well before the actual magnetic excursion and minimum point in the solar micronova. The time to prep is now. We actually did not get hit with any such major blasts of solar activity last sunspot cycle. It was somewhat weak in terms of solar flares. And so if that happens again this cycle, we'll get through to the 2030s, provided there isn't another acceleration in the secular variation of the magnetic field. And that's actually a pretty good place to start answering tough questions. In addition to the 12,000-year cycle being robust and us being due again right now, the magnetic field has been accelerating its shift. During that series and the full movie, we did not yet know about the Pacific sector and how it had another acceleration in 2017. It wasn't reported until this year. Before that acceleration, we were indeed predicting more accelerations, with a no acceleration scenario actually taking us into the 2050s or later for the excursion. But with the acceleration in 2017, and with no reason in physical reality to expect those accelerations to stop, we are truly looking at around 2040 or earlier for the flip. Again, we'll all already be in survival mode, but we should be able to notice the auroral anomalies at all latitudes and increased lightning events as the field drops to its minimum marks.
Did he
So
just say
when will
like
we need to click into
16
gear?
to 26 years from now?
Yeah, he thinks that's when the excursion will happen and everything will flip. But he says that before that, like, we'll lose all our electricity and everything.
Oh, we'll have
No.
the big magnetic pulse.
We'll
here.
have something that's going to happen that's going to cause us to lose all of our electric. Basically, no more electric, no more nothing is going to happen before the big thing that basically flips and causes all the stuff. So you'll know, it'll just be, can you survive and make it to where you can survive before the water comes.
Okay. Well,
If you believe that.
It's like you're shaking up a snow globe or something.
Yeah.
What it sounds like.
look, man, disasters happen. I mean, it's just, like you said earlier, Nick, they're just going to happen. They happen all the time. It's not on a global scale. all the
You think
time.
it's weird though? Like
I
you
just think
pointed out.
centrifugal force would keep everything just the way it does now, stabilized. It just seems like that's what would happen. Like
Did you ever see what happens? And did you ever see what happens when they spin that thing in space? How it flips and flips and flips. They take like that. It's
Yeah.
not that like
I mean,
the
does
key
that
thing.
make sense?
I'm just saying.
Does
So I
make
mean,
sense?
it flips, then flips, then flips.
I just
then
think
flips.
centrifugal force would still work at this point.
Well, maybe.
That's not based upon magnetism. It's based upon motion.
Yeah, but we're just a big magnet. Like it's the Earth is a big giant electromagnetic pulse. And that's why do we have fucking north and south poles on the planet? Like that's weird. Why do they
Because it's iron spinning in the center of the Earth.
Maybe.
Yeah. Maybe.
How do they know? How do they know it's
Molten
iron?
spinning around.
How do they know?
Because we have a pretty strong magnetic field.
Okay, maybe it's something else. How do they know?
Yeah.
Same thing with the sun.
How do they know?
They're
A lot
just
of
telling this
molten
stuff. They're just
magnetic stuff
theorizing.
at the center.
Everything's are just theories.
Yeah. That's why it's Theory Thursday, not Answer Thursday, because we don't know shit either. But we're interested in it. But
I really don't know anything either. I just bullshit out of my head.
I know.
My
Yeah.
best guess
Oh,
is the
I don't have a
2030s,
PhD or
provided
anything.
we don't get that major solar
so he thinks the 2030s is when this is going to happen. So you guys, about 6 years just to fuck around.
So
Like an eye.
you're telling me I
License.
better go get my fucking whole house generator?
No, I don't think it'll make a difference.
Oh, my generator wouldn't work on kerosene?
Well, no, if
Or-
everything gets fried, all electric, you'd have to rebuild all the parts because the parts, everything's going to blow up.
Oh, you think it's going to be that much of an EM? He thinks it's going to be that much of an EMP that's going to fry
Yeah.
the inside of your house stuff, or just the major power grid?
Well, yeah, when I mean,
that
think
would
about
only
it
be
this
if
way.
it's on, because otherwise it would fry all metal on Earth.
No, because it's going to pick up the transmit electricity. But who knows? Maybe that's why we haven't found any metal. Maybe it melted.
We have found
Old
metal.
metal. No, I'm saying the
No,
metal,
no.
like structures
In the
that we only found the
Old
stone
days.
stuff,
Yeah,
old day
days.
stuff.
Yeah,
You know, we
Maybe
haven't
they
found
just
metal.
built it.
You know, maybe, or maybe it all melted.
just like the rubber.
Yeah,
Right.
maybe.
But the fucking plastic, that shit. We keep finding that shit. We sure are more focused on funding wars. I ain't. I guess my fearless leaders are, but those wars can go fuck themselves too, Jim.
Yeah.
solar storm this
Stop killing
cycle,
people.
which is obviously no guarantee. The magnetic flip and crescendo of the event, and whatever else the sun and crust have in mind
Rocky,
for us,
they've
will
already
be coming
got the
shortly after
plans.
that. Maybe a few years, probably not many. Especially because the accelerations we've seen have all accompanied significant solar storms: 1859, 2003, 2017. Of course, with the way society is going, we'll be in gear before nature even demands it, but that's on other channels. So, there you have it. If the sun rocks and rolls this sunspot cycle, we could be in trouble in just the upcoming few years. The magnetic energy suggests the sun is still in a weaker mode this cycle, so as I've said, give it only a 1 in 4 or 1 in 5 chance for that major blast over the next 10 years. As long as the magnetic field continues to weaken, however, the 2030s really don't look so good.
Well, son of a bitch. So, Rocky, they've been building plenty of bunkers around the planet for the last 15, 20 years, right, Jim? And
Yeah, they're all building. All the billionaires are building giant bunkers, underground bunkers, and stuff.
Why do you think for the last 10 years they've been saying, that they'd like to see the Earth be down to 5 million people? Because if it happens because of a natural disaster, hey, we didn't see it coming. They can be, they didn't know, but they know. They
Nice knowing you, plebs.
get those fucking degenerates out of here. Then they're going to go to their Mexican restaurant or their Chinese restaurant and go, hey, I need some food. No, you fucking let them all die, dummy. You killed them all. So now you get to eat your fucking your bugs. Go eat your bugs. Did I hear the Dennis Quaid thing?
I don't know what that is.
I don't either.
Like a
Yeah, you're on your own, man.
position or
Hey,
scientific?
do you think the solar or the wind would survive it, Jim? The solar farms and the wind farms?
No, because more than likely, the wind, when this happens, the winds are going to be 200-300 miles an hour. If everything's rocking and rolling.
Well, okay. Yeah.
It'll be like
Wind is created by pressure differences, right?
correct, which is all due to electricity.
No,
Yes,
it's air density,
it has to do with electricity.
air and rising and falling.
It has to do with the electricity and electrical currents.
Hence thunderstorms and lightning, right?
No, that's friction. It's like static electricity. It's
Oh,
'cause shit's
sure.
rubbing up against each other.
That's just sure static electricity because that's
You ever rubbed your feet on a carpet?
Yeah, it
All
has
the time,
nothing to
dude.
do with it. And where do you think it comes from, though? The static electricity just doesn't get created. The electricity
Yeah.
is there. And it's in the ground, in the earth.
Well, I mean, we work on electricity on ourselves, but no, it's just the that creates it. It's exciting, moving stuff around each other
Okay,
or something.
sure. So where's the friction since space is a vacuum and Earth is spinning in space? Where's the friction?
There's no that's coming from it's residual electricity coming from the sun.
Where's it coming from?
The sun.
So electric, there's wires going to the sun. How's the electricity get here? Photons?
It's
right?
open space. It's just floating.
Right. Photons, the solar winds, electrons, photons, protons, neutrons, quasars, pulsars.
No, they didn't call me back today.
It's everything you
Tomorrow.
remember.
All right. This is very important. Pay attention. There's going to be a
yeah.
quiz on this later.
It's always more challenging to hit
fails.
a moving target, especially in science. By the time you write a book or do a summary video, there's more to add, which is why, after a few dozen episodes in the 2019 playlist, we had to make a full film on the disaster. But by the time it was done, dozens more papers needed to go into the mix, and we chased for another year, and again this year as well. The goal is tracking the ongoing geomagnetic shift of Earth. The magnetic poles are shifting. This is bad news for the creatures that live on this planet. And indeed, we see evidence of an ongoing solar system shift, with the other planets, the sun, and even interplanetary space changing, as well as the nearby stars we'd expect to have been recently triggered by a larger galactic shift. It's all about chasing the next iteration of a disaster cycle, and tragically, with all the events and of all the times to be alive, we are about to endure the big one, 12,000 years. Here, we have compiled clips from the full disaster film in 2019, all 3 existing postludes, the important geomagnetic update.
I mean, I just want to point out, too, that it's kind of coincidental that Atlantis supposedly sank 12,000 years ago.
Is that when they say it sank, Jim, 12,000 years ago?
Yeah.
Or was
Left
the
over.
lore continued from maybe another cycle before that? I mean,
Maybe.
Could be, right?
know,
That's the
could
whole,
be.
that's the whole thing.
Yeah,
Like it could be 24,000 years old. If we're 100,000 or 200,000 years old as people, Atlantis could have been here 200,000 years ago, and people were talking about it till today still. I mean, think about that. That's incredible that it would survive that long.
Yes,
What hap-
Moss is right about Venus and Mercury and stuff, and there's things happening on Mars right now that they're seeing stuff that they never thought. They thought it was quiet and dead. There was no volcanic activity on
Mars.
on Mars, and they're seeing it now, like it's waking up. So
Because our sun is more active with it.
well, plus the galactic current sheet is coming in and changing things. And
Yeah. And it's also coming from the actual galaxy itself, setting out its own waves as well, right, Jim?
yes,
That's what we're saying about ours is a stable galaxy, but still there is other pulses coming from other things in our universe.
well, and if you listen to Billy Carson, he says that we're not even part of the Milky Way galaxy. We're part of a different galaxy that's being absorbed by the Milky Way galaxy. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I'm gonna start look up Agenda 2030. Have I seen Agenda 2030? I don't think I have. Isn't there a Agenda 2025 or something, Jim?
Well, no, Agenda 2030 is a
2030.
WEF. Is I think the WEF and all them trying to get us eat the bugs and own nothing. And
Sustainable development is a 15-year global framework adopted by the United Nations. Yeah.
Crazy Cat, we know about the Anti-Ripper Alliance video Eric did. We're not discussing it tonight.
No. No, we don't care about that tonight. We did enough for Eric last night. We'll do it tomorrow night, though. Tomorrow night's going to be another night like last night. We're going to go full bore on some detracting again because it was fun. It's been a while since we did a full detracting show, Jim. We usually get.
I mean, I will just say that it's like the epitome, the definition of coping and seething that a guy with 500,000 subs and a multi-million-dollar business is making videos about little old us.
And not even representing what the thing is, right? He doesn't even know. He's making assumptions because he's following his plebe Ripaverse goalpost because that's who sent it to him. And was that part of his For Canon's Sake show?
I don't know
watched
what
the
it was.
video.
No, they planned all that shit last night.
So that was just he just went online to make
lot
a
of 'em-
specific video about that. Is that what he did?
Well,
'Cause I haven't watched it.
There was a lot of them in the chat last night. If you pay attention,
Nope.
there's a lot of they were all planning over here trying to snap something on us.
Oh,
Huh.
it didn't work.
Oh.
Last night was
I
a
think they
pretty
knew
calm
about-
show. I mean, we
I think
didn't
they knew
even
about
slam
the
Eric that
pizza.
hard. I mean, what did we get through 2 fucking 4-minute Eric videos last night? And we were on for 5 hours. Because it just went, although Salty Traveling Sea fucking lost his shit, didn't he, Jim? He said, I had enough
He
of
goes
being nice
off.
to that guy. Good.
He's a
Good.
treat. He's a treat.
Oh, that's why Student OG is that student of God? Is that
Yeah, whatever. You know what?
I don't know him. He followed me on Twitter. I did not follow him back, or X. I didn't follow him back.
No, he just follows people to try and spy. That's all he does.
It's silly. I mean, it's fun because it's like his poster where all the retards like congregate and everything. Everybody that hates.
Hey,
EBS.
man. All I'm going to say is this: I gained like 8 new subs on X last night or today, and then another 12 or 10 on YouTube after last night's stream. So, for some reason, YouTube loves the people to talk about that stuff and name your videos like Eric July. Like, for some reason, people show up and, not just likers, but haters, right? Both show up, like you just said, Nicholas, and they're just trying to get info. But we had 225 people in here last night watching the show. That's a good stream for me. I mean, like a great stream.
Yeah, it was pretty fun last night too.
I had a good time, but I always have a good time. Sometimes I dread it, and then I start it, and I'm like, "Well, I'm here. Let's go, boys." I started watching a new show though on Netflix called Terror. It's an AMC
Yeah.
show.
Yeah.
It's pretty
Watching that
fucking
too.
good, man.
Yeah.
You been watching it?
Yeah. I was watching it too recently.
It's pretty good, man. They well acting and
It's hard to know what's exactly like if it's supernatural or not. Like it's definitely like very like
Crazy Cat. It's
well
my
written.
show, dude. I'll do what I want. They don't have to come back. Vito seemed okay. Vito seemed to have a good time.
He only
Yeah.
left like a hostage at one point.
He left like a hostage.
Yeah, well, that quick dip out that he did.
Oh, I think that might be his thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it is sort of like a hostage escape kind of thing. That's what it feels like.
I don't ask EVS to come back, but if he wants to, he can. He defended me the other night, dude, on his own stream, Crazy Cat, because he said people wanted Ethan to denounce me, and he's like, I'm not denouncing BTM reviews. What are you guys, stupid?
What would the fuck he be denouncing you for?
Because I said negroid.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, that's what
It's like
people that like.
It's a
It's so dumb.
scientific description.
I know
It's a
it's so
scientific
retarded that but he was playing my video. I don't know. It was the one where Milo Watermark and Chris Bacon were talking.
Yeah,
And
the
he-
infighting one or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, and he says, people are DMing me saying you need to denounce this guy. It's like, what? What are you talking about? He didn't do anything to anybody. So yeah. But Ethan's always welcome on the show. Always. But I don't ask people for anything. I don't do it, man. I don't say come on my show and do all this stuff. I mean, Jim knows Vito. And he said, would you like to come on? We're going to do some Eric July stuff. And he showed up when he could, Jim, and he left when he wanted to. Right? No
I mean,
pressure.
Saying I know Vito is not.
I'm saying you talk to him on
I've
Twitter.
DM'd him a couple times.
He responds to you
Gave him a reach.
sometimes. Right. I mean, but you're right. I shouldn't have said you know Vito, but you've had conversations just like you have with Dick Masterson.
Yeah, but that's the
I
same
love
thing.
him.
I wouldn't say I know him.
That's what I said. I'm sorry for saying you know him.
Yeah.
You've had conversations with them.
Whispered to him a couple of times.
They're the Whisper Network. Hey, man.
Yeah, I've never seen his sex doll.
Yeah. What did yeah, it's funny. We're getting off course.
Yes, we need to get
God damn it,
back. This is
Crazy
important
Cat.
stuff.
Quit derailing
Important
my
stuff.
show, son of a bitch.
Important stuff. This is very important stuff. Crazy Cat, pay attention. This might save your life.
Date from earlier this month, a fourth postlude we will do right in sequence, followed by 3
What
bonus
could you
clips that
do to
all
your
go together
house?
with the rest of this material. It's not Hollywood cinema.
To survive it.
Cover it in tinfoil.
No, could you?
Damn
Could
it,
you
I was going to say that.
could you go? But obviously, you'd have to live without your electronics. But if you went all gas appliances and stuff, at least you'd be good for heat and all that stuff, right?
Would the solenoids work? Because they're electronic.
The solenoids are, or the board is the board.
The
is,
solenoids
the
that control
board is.
everything. I mean,
Yeah.
we're fucked. I mean, the best thing to do is to live somewhere where you got like where you could chop wood and have a hand pump to pump the well to get your water.
Do you
and,
understand? Do you understand how big of a pulse that would be to blow out the fucking solenoid in a basement of a house on their AC unit? Like,
I don't know
what the hell, dude? Like, that would be dude, that's going through many layers, going through the earth, going through the walls, everything.
I don't know. Well, see, what would happen more than likely, though, is because in 1879, I think, or 1889, there was a massive solar flare, and it
How old were
lit
you?
like
Oh, Siberia.
How-
no,
how
no,
old
not
were you at the
Siberia.
time?
No, just listen, and it lit all the like telegraph wires on fire, and like was when all this stuff was crazy.
Oh,
This
yeah.
is documented. You can look that up.
Yeah.
So the electricity that gets imparted on all the wires that are everywhere are going to fly around and basically like surge and blow everything up that's connected to the grid. So that's kind of, I hope that's why the government is watching this stuff, so they can go and start shutting shit off and disconnecting things so that it doesn't blow everything up. But who knows? Depends on who's in charge, I guess.
Well, not just that. I mean, you understand, like, they don't even know what it would take, I think, Jim, to actually affect it the way that you're talking about. Like, well, that's only 2% are different than yesterday. Well, that 2% might have been the thing it's been forever, and they don't make the call, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy. I don't know,
Grabbing
man.
some bunch of old TV antennas.
I'm not saying I trust the government to handle this. What I'm saying is that I would hope that's why they're watching all this stuff and collecting all this data. I mean, there's 3 satellites up there just watching the sun, like watching these solar flares. There's 2 GOES satellites and another one that's
So you
watching.
prefer nanny state?
No, I don't want a nanny state. But I mean, if we didn't have the satellites and the things up there, how would we know this is even happening?
Communism.
Cinematic quality, but the storyline is way more interesting than what they've got, and it's real, with us cast as the lead characters. Here's the script in a little over 90 minutes. Let's begin with the clips from the full film in 2019, Cosmic Disaster, CIA Classified. I'm going to tell you the scariest true story ever told. Over thousands of years, in thousands of versions with different names and minute details, but the story always ends the same way, with the next end of the world. We'll give you the short version first, and then the burden of proof will fall here to present the evidence across time.
Ben Togel, I hear there's one named April she's kind of cute. I'd let her,
Well, if
come
you
live
watch
with
the
me.
stream, Nick never had a live-in nanny. That's all a lie.
Okay, well, I'm just saying.
No, I'm
Oh,
saying
he's
saying-
talking an au pair
that's
or
what Nick was
something.
talking about on last night's stream. How
I'd call her my O.
no, they made up. So he even said he said his first nanny's name, because when they were interviewing Lady Rackets, they were talking about the nanny or whatever, and then the interviewers called her a live-in nanny, and she never was. And now they're saying that April is a live-in nanny, and she's not. And Nick's like, this is how people go to jail for a long fucking time, because the government are going to do things to make the case in their favor. And there's not a whole lot you can do it if you ain't got no fucking money. There's just not. You can't fight it if you ain't got the cash.
How do you piss all these people off? Because it's obviously the justice system has it out for them there a little bit. Just
Well,
like
you keep talking shit about them.
Well, I think that he lives in a very small county. It's less than 50,000 people for the whole county. Some overambitious cop got a hot tip that there's cocaine in a house. Where that tip came from, we're kind of finding out, because that guy just got served a fucking warrant today, and he's got to go to jail for 90 days
really?
at least. Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's got 2
They're
warrants out for his
obviously
arrest.
leaking stuff.
Yeah. The old Aaron Emholt is going to jail.
Winning.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I can present it. Can I share it, Jim?
Sure, go ahead.
Or you share it, because I tend to fuck up, I guess, when I
All
share
right.
on
Well,
Twitter.
real quick, I have a video file up that I made a graphic that shows exactly what's going to happen to the Earth. If you guys want to see it, it's right there, ready to go. It's all ready to go.
Smash everyone.
I've had a couple people hit me up, Jim, asking, how do I become a member?
Yeah, I've seen that. But, the first rule of anti-Ripper Alliance is don't talk about anti-Ripper Alliance.
And no new members.
No new members.
No new members. Because they would actually think it's what Eric thinks it is. And that's not what it is, you dumb bastard.
See, that's exactly what's going to happen.
Well, did you see my thumbnail for
Yeah.
tonight? Same thing, right?
Yeah.
And I did that in AI. If you got Canva, Jim, it's got an AI thumbnail maker. But it's really hard for
Even
AI.
Microsoft Paint now. Like
Well, it's
AI
really
stuff.
it's really hard for AI to write stuff. You can't tell it put a fucking word in here. It never gets it right. Like, I don't know how to fix that. I don't know if you have to use quotes or whatever, but it's never good.
I think you
Never
just have to further just graphic design
All
of
right.
it.
Here it is right here.
All right, here we go. We're getting off of this, because this is actually, we want to show people winning. This is what we do here.
This is winning. This is Aaron M. Holt winning. Charge 1, non-consensual dissemination of private sexual images, intentionally disseminate image without consent. Minnesota Statute 617.261.1 with reference to 6.7.261.2 B5. Maximum sentence, 3 years or $5,000 fine. Offense level, felony.
But here's the question, Jim. It says the offense date was 5/27.
Yeah, that's when he shared it with Gino on stream, and so
But
he's fucked.
didn't he?
Because he did it live on stream, and it's there when he sent it. So,
But didn't he already get this 12-month forgiveness? So was this part of that, or
No.
is this a new warrant?
this is new charges. These are new charges. These are new charges.
Oh, new charges.
New
Yeah,
charges.
this
Yeah,
is
these were
a-
just filed. There's a warrant for his arrest.
And who
Wait
were
a
the
minute, is
pictures
this against?
of?
Yeah.
It's against somebody whose initials are KF, I think. Or no, KR maybe.
Well-
I don't know.
Well, no, let's go KF.
He had images of Kayla?
I don't know.
Well, he could have stolen.
Who knows? It says that the defendant, Errant Michael Imholt, then and there being, did wrongfully, unlawfully, felonious, and intentionally disseminate an image of another person who is depicted in a sexual act or whose intimate parts are exposed when the person is identifiable and without the person's consent, and did so with the intent to harass the person depicted in the image. I guess if you share it with somebody while live on your show, laughing and giggling about it, that's kind of with the intention to harass or intimidate, right?
Dude, that's a scary precedent, though, man.
I don't know. Hey,
How
it's
many-
not. I don't know. I'm not here to judge whether it's a law or not. I just know that he did it and he sent it to somebody, and then the
Especially
person
the
that
women. I think that's a
No.
pretty shit thing to
he
do.
sent it to a person, and then that person was contacted by the police. The police did get the evidence from that
Well,
person.
isn't this basically what Eric did to Riley?
No, this is
There's
different.
nothing like Riley wasn't sending illegally obtained nude images of Eric to lie around the people.
Is that what it was? Is that like, well, but Eric went after him for harassment, and that's what he's basically.
No, this is
charged with.
different. This is basically revenge porn charges.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's what it
okay.
is.
That's okay. That's different. I just thought
Yeah.
it was just a picture of him and her together, but they're nudes. Oof, oofa.
Yeah. So 2 charges. One's a misdemeanor. One's a felony. And then
Okay.
law enforcement spoke to the defendant. He acknowledged the relationship in using the Signal app. However, defendant stated he did not recall ever receiving or sending a nude photograph. He's on video. It's a live stream, giggling and laughing and doing it. So I don't know how he can get around it. He later said he did not want to definitely say he never received a photo, but can't recall being sent one. He acknowledged using Signal. I bet you he thinks that Signal erases that stuff. It doesn't.
It doesn't.
Here we go.
By
Felony
law,
bond.
they have to keep a certain
Wow.
uh,
Bond
Yeah.
amount, 0. Huh. That means he has to wait to see a judge and get his bond set.
So here's the question, though, Jim. Is he going to go to jail? Because these are.
Well, he's going to go to jail until he gets his bond set. And then if he did this, it's pretty cut and dry that he did it, and they
But it
have
was-
the evidence.
But these.
Get
But
everything
this happened. This happened before his deal. Is my point. Like he didn't do something new. This is just old stuff.
No,
That's-
this is a completely different crime, Dave. You don't get to plead guilty for some other crime and then do a different crime, and they go, "Well, you pled guilty to this one, so we're just going to let you go on this other
I
one."
thought it was the same thing. I thought.
No, it's not. This is the stock. There's other people saying that his wife is still going to go after him for breaking the order of protection or whatever because he's been talking shit about her still on his show after he pled guilty to it.
Does he think going to jail is going to get him some more clout or something? Like, shut the fuck up, dude.
Oh, I just think he's an idiot.
Oh, okay.
I don't think he really considers the consequences of his actions at all.
I got to ask questions because I'm confused, Crazy Cat. If I don't ask the questions, then I don't know because I don't know how this is working. I thought that he basically got a 12-month not a probation, but do not do anything.
He got a 90-day
And
sentence
it's just-
suspended for 1 year as long as he doesn't get in any trouble for anything or break it again. This might actually cause that to all get fucked up.
And they might have some reasoning to say, well, this happened before that, so you
That's
didn't
why I asked. Like this, yeah, like
actively break it.
I mean, like just because they're like, they're new charges, but they're from a date before the deal. Is why I'm asking. That's all. I mean,
Well, I don't know if that's going to fuck, but this is, this is unrelated to the deal anyway. So anything that happens with this is separate. The thing about the deal, though, is that there's also
because the
people
deal had to
saying
do
that
with his ex-wife, and he told him
correct,
not to
and
talk
supposedly
about
the ex-wife is already making complaints that he's already talked because we watched that show where he had his co-host read that thing about dealing with the ex-wife. Remember? He's like, you can read it. I can't, but it's specifically said in the thing that he was responsible. So, but yeah, so there's that, So.
Is that it? I thought there were.
That's it.
Okay.
Well, there's tweets, but I mean,
I don't care about
No
that.
there's no actual photos, Dave.
No, I thought there was another page of charges. That's why I thought it was okay. All right. Quit being crazy cat, Nicholas. Stop. I got crazy cat in the chat. I need you to be on my side, Nick.
I'm on your side.
So again, I didn't put together all. I was thinking, oh yeah, this is KR, not his ex-wife. So KR is actually going after him. This guy that claimed that KR told him that he was her soulmate, right, Jim?
yeah.
Even if she had said that beforehand, he also got them all fucking arrested after that.
Yeah, we all know how the drugs were told on, but I think that's an overambitious cop that got some shit on something in his county. Nicholas, that's how he got arrested, not because of what he said on the fucking radio. They've swatted Nick multiple times. They've never come in guns blazing. They actually call him sometimes, and he'll say, "Yeah, I'm on stream, dude. You can look. I'm right on TV." And they just check their phone and go, "Yep, he's not killing his family. He's live streaming right now." Although they should be careful about that, because there's a guy that just got prosecuted in, I think it was Ireland or maybe Scotland, but he was on a live stream supposedly, but he had recorded it 2 days earlier and went out and killed his fucking pregnant girlfriend and said he was live streaming and whatever. Yeah, well, I'm dumb, Rocky. So it takes me questions. If I don't ask questions, I don't know the answer, Jim. So that's all I can say. It was Ireland. Okay, yeah, that dude. That dude was like a YouTuber. He had pretty. He did some stuff, and he was doing a gaming stream the night for his excuse that he was online when his wife or girlfriend was getting murdered. What a piece of shit, dude! You don't have a kid? Fucking walk away and just pay some child support. All right, so this is the long documentary, right, Jim?
I got it speeded up though. It'll be fine.
Okay.
And topic that the slow crawl of geology, the wind, water, fire, and tectonic creep is punctuated in rare occasions by disastrous upheaval. The Earth's magnetic field reverses, with dramatic excursion events sprinkled between. They can occur in less than 100 years from plunge to rock bottom. Earth's ongoing magnetic event has already been underway 150 years, into the red zone, and it is speeding up. In early 2019, the magnetic event accelerated to where an update to the world magnetic model was required ahead of schedule for the first time. Well, so far, this has not been causing catastrophic events, but unfortunately there are other aspects to the event coming. Both in physical evidence and in the stories told in rock and voice, the sun plays the role of the destroyer. Where the decadal and centennial cycles of activity converge, we find the entire magnetic potential of the sun accessible for what can only be described as a micronova. As unbelievable as that might sound, the evidence will actually show this to be an almost unavoidable consequence of the solar system trip through the galaxy. There is evidence that the crust and mantle unlock at the low velocity zone. The plates collide and may be worse, triggering volcanoes and sending unfathomable amounts of water into the land, creating surge deposits of bone and earth. The earthquakes and volcanoes and tsunamis are followed by snow, ice, incredible amounts falling by the yard as Earth's temperature plummets. We'll see evidence at the micro scale of the previous great solar blast, the ways in which humans survived the last great catastrophe.
I mean, look at this guy. Nobody could look at him.
Mm-hmm.
That's all the evidence. Look at him. He's in the hole.
Oh, he's in
It's
one of
there.
the caves. He's one of the caves that survived. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the cave survivors. Look at how long his hair is.
Oh. The fuck?
You know.
Oh, these goddamn dogs.
The evidence that similar plans are secretly unfolding beneath our feet.
Oh, wait.
And the
What was
evidence-
that? Hold on a second. I got to go back.
Yeah.
We'll see evidence at the micro scale of the previous great solar blast, the ways in which humans survived the last great catastrophe, the evidence.
So this is facilities and tunnels, deep underground military bases. He's got a chart in here showing all the bases the U.S. is building because of this. Why would they be building all this stuff?
Oh, can
I'm
I'm going to be showing you your future here real quick, Nicholas, okay? This is going to be your future. 2030, this is your future. Thank you, Simply Green, for this. On his steam-powered vehicle.
That would have to be a hot thing to drive in that kind of
What'd you
climate.
say?
Have to be hot in that kind of climate.
Dude,
Steam.
it's so loud, too. Holy shit. Just tap, tap, tap. Jim, do you have any control of your speed on a steam powered
yeah.
vehicle?
Sure, you would have a clutch. You know, they used to have steam trains, and they would have, you know, control over the speed.
Okay, so
I'm not even sure how steam engines work like that.
what's
Would
just
work like
pressure?
that.
Just the pressure, right? Just
Yeah.
the water.
They water and boil,
building
and they
pressure.
build pressure, and the pressure goes and, you know, moves something, then it releases. Just
Hence why we have a water shortage, Nicholas, because having steam engines and shit would be so much cheaper and easier for people to have. I mean, they might not get as good a mileage, but you could just fill up at a water fountain, Jim, anytime. But no, we had to go to fossil fuels and make everybody think that there's not enough water. So you can control the steam. So you can control the pressure being released. So I guess there's a valve or a valve regulator or something that will create more pressure to go faster, less pressure to slow down, right? Kind of what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
All right. But I just wanted to show you our future. So you might want to start building your steam-powered bicycle right now, Nicholas. You got to learn all about steam. Because I don't think the water's going to get affected, Jim.
I don't know. Might all boil away.
Might have to walk everywhere.
Is he running out of steam? Oh. Professor Pardal Bill. Oh, no pressure. Pardal has 948,000 subscribers and 3.8 million views on this video, guys. This is awesome. I like this stuff, Jim. That's fun. All right, we'll go back to yours. We see our future.
So these are all these bases where the government is preparing for what's coming. Right here, see?
It sort of
They're all
lines
over.
up with that stuff from last week.
It does. Yeah. Interesting how that works, isn't it? Yeah.
That similar plans are secretly unfolding beneath our feet, and the evidence demonstrating the cover-up and erroneous geological science that overthrew a course of rediscovery. One that can now lead us to understand that the sun's cyclical passage through the galactic electric sheet is the trigger for the great catastrophe cycle on Earth. Let's begin in the 1700s, with a surge of global exploration in science and the discovery of the evidence for these cycles. A dozen researchers became dozens in the 1800s as more evidence and excitement and terror over the implications of the evidence was mounting in an undeniable charge to science to explain all the evidence. The 1900s saw a further growth of the field. Many researchers gained considerable fame, while others were silenced. The end of the century saw the birth of the plasma universe connection to catastrophism, with the first global study of petroglyphs describing a solar catastrophe in antiquity. The story truly begins, relevantly however, with a man almost certainly responsible for the misdirection of the truth, Charles Hapgood. His Earth crust displacement theory became the torch for the catastrophe cycle, and when it bombed, it took down the entire field with it. We will demonstrate his motive and opportunity to cheat Einstein, that he knew the truth, he covered it up. In the 1940s, one of the most critical scenes of this theater played out at the North Pole. Major Maynard E. White led the first mission to map and understand the Arctic region, mostly because of navigational concerns and to monitor for Soviet attacks over the pole. When it became imperative to locate the magnetic pole position, the scientists found much more than they bargained for when they got their boots on the ground. They found evidence of marine strata, lifted to significant altitude, time after time, and with tropical corals found in that Arctic region strata, complementing the evidence of similar fossils found by Admiral Byrd in Antarctica, both complementing the prehistoric trees unearthed in Norway, which had no rings, indicating that they resided at the equator. All in all, Major White's team believed that they had unearthed 9 levels of catastrophe on the planet. These findings were reported at the Pentagon, attended also by Paul Sipple of the RAND Corporation and presumably members of the Office of Strategic Services, where Charles Hapgood was a key player in geophysics. And working with Major White's findings and Dr. Sipple's experiments, it was concluded that Earth's magnetic pole began slowly accelerating, followed by a whip around the geographic polar region, which somehow tilts the planet back and forth, which is why there is evidence of the polar regions in the same places over and over, because it always tilts right back and appears to have not moved over geologic time. They confirmed the catastrophe aspects of the new mountain range creation and ice age conditions immediately following the great event. Charles Hapgood, Paul Sipple, and the Pentagon are perhaps the most credible advocates of this 10 to 12,000 year cycle of disaster on Earth, especially when you consider
Jim,
what they
our
did
Pentagon
next.
believes this? Like,
Supposedly the Pentagon had all this information, and the CIA, they classified the stuff, and some guy
to not cause a panic. They don't
Right.
want to cause a panic, just like the UFO stuff. We don't want to cause a panic.
don't want to cause a panic.
Yeah, we got to keep the Tardos, in line. We got to keep them farming for us until the end of days. We're going to store all that shit somewhere and keep it for us when they get destroyed. It's unbelievable. Jesus Christ. The Pentagon was part of this and they're supporting it. Ugh. Now,
Yeah, and it's weird too because I think one of the major seed vaults that they're building, like the huge seed vault, I think is somewhere in Scandinavia. Maybe Iceland or something, or Greenland.
you're talking
Pretty
about
cool country,
the
yeah.
DNA stuff.
Well, a bunch of stuff, seeds and DNA and everything. So,
I think it's
why would they put it there?
I think it's in Finland, dude. Well, because the climate.
Yeah, the climate after it flips, it'll be fine. It'll be at the equator.
Well, I don't know if that's what the flip does. And how long does a flip last?
I don't know.
Does it flip quick and then go right back? But
No, it
during
stays for a while. It has to stay long enough that there was tropical growth in the Arctic, and that they found these prehistoric trees in Scandinavia and in Finland and other places with no rings, meaning they were at the equator. They didn't have seasons.
Oh,
Still have rings on trees.
I don't know. Not according to these people. You don't have rings on trees at the equator.
is that right?
That's what they say. I don't know.
It's literally just how it grows, and that's where the rings are from, like where the bark was or something.
Correct. And then so it creates a new level when it stops growing in the winter.
Well,
Shut up.
Maybe.
trees that grow near the equatorial region do not form growth rings because these regions are usually rainforests that do not have different seasons. So that's how you tell its age, by how much.
I just argue with everything.
Yeah. Well, I'm just telling you what the internet says, and more than one place is saying it. So, yeah.
Let's jump back in.
Hapgood continued his classified life while also teaching at various universities up through the late 60s. During the 50s, in the years following Major White's Arctic mission, Charles Hapgood stepped into the limelight in his public life with with the famous Earth's crust displacement theory. It was a much mutated version from what we heard from Major White, where the poles do not go back and forth to the same places, the cycle is twice as long, and instead of a one-day event, it takes thousands of years to complete, and which was easily debunked by modern geophysicists, taking down the entire science of catastrophism with it. That is the famous version with the foreword written by Albert Einstein. That is not disputed, as his work with Hapgood was well known in the years before he died. However, Einstein was likely privy to the same information as Hapgood, and the final book came out after he died. There is no way of knowing if Einstein supported the radically different version that Hapgood eventually espoused. But what we do know is that Einstein saw the cycle of catastrophe and the turning over of the Earth. He was looking for a way to unlock the crust from the low-velocity zone in the years before he died, and we know he never did find a sufficient geophysical mechanism. Hapgood's version of the story, the public one, does not match what he and Sipple delivered to Major White at the Pentagon a decade earlier. It does not match the geological evidence or the timelines as well. Hapgood's versions, again, were easily debunked. Now, Einstein discussed this for years with Hapgood, and the only contribution was a foreword. Maybe. But, armed with that foreword, the weak version of crust displacement Hapgood placed over the field had the credibility to do so. The Chan Thomas version matches the version that somehow got lost between the Pentagon and Charles Hapgood's public life. It plainly contradicts the version that the CIA geophysicist Charles Hapgood was promoting around the world, even if he had promoted a different one in private. And Chan's version got classified, as apparently did that real version of the story reported from what Major White and Paul Sipple provided. Einstein's key problem was the evidence of Greenland's tilting action, but a lack of weight in ice to pull the crust itself. Nobody had ever before discovered a mechanism for how the Earth would actually accomplish this unfathomable disrespect of inertia, basic physics, common logic. Frankly, the explanations blaming
disrespect.
Yes.
Even here, it's always important.
the hand of God had about as much evidence as anything else up until that point. That is, until the version Chan Thomas tried to put out. The postlude of Chan's work was not part of the sanitized release by the CIA, but it was included in a 1993 version of the book the CIA apparently didn't feel the need to classify due to the disrepute of the field of catastrophism. Nobody cares anymore. The postlude describes the only potential mechanism for connection of all the evidence from beneath our feet out to the sun. In recent years, the move in cosmology to see the galactic magnetic field structure as coherent, including the central torus and jet model, has run through the national labs and NASA with incredible success. But one of the lesser publicized realizations of this fact is the scaled similarity with the solar system and with Earth's equatorial ion mission. You see, just like the solar system, the galaxy has an electromagnetic current sheet rippling around the equator, separating the coherent fields of north and south. Now, in our solar system, the sheet ripples, wavering around the equator, bringing a spike in ion density and a reversal of the interplanetary magnetic fields. At Earth, although our orbit only crosses the exact solar equator twice per year, the solar electric current sheet hits Earth every 2 weeks and can produce a geomagnetic storm, inducing electric currents in the atmosphere and the ground. Earth is constantly protected by its own magnetic field, but in addition to things like solar flares, simply enduring a every 2 week solar system magnetic reversal and current sheet impact can cause those electromagnetic disruptions. So, what happens when the Sun and solar system encounter the galactic version, its spike in density, and its magnetic reversal process? Let's actually add one more element to that puzzle, the dust. In our own solar system, and most we see, there is a dusty planet,
Jim?
like Saturn's rings.
Crazy. You want a deep rabbit hole to go down? Dive into Albert Einstein being a fraud and plagiarist. Dude, they do that to everybody in history, though. Everybody was a fraud now, Jim. You know what I mean? Because nobody thinks that there's any original thought ever. Like literally, there's today, anything you think of, somebody's probably thought of a bazillion times before you did, right? Nicholas, it's just a thing. And Einstein's not that long ago. So he probably did read some old papers or whatever. But he got famous for it, and he helped build a nuclear bomb, Jim, right?
I don't think he was part of the Manhattan Project, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, I don't think he was. His theories helped with it, right? I mean, there was some there's a reason he was in that Oppenheimer movie.
No, he was just
his some of his work was what gave people the idea for an atomic bomb in the first place. Right. So without because
some of his
math
theories,
proved it was possible.
I'll be right back.
Yeah. but I'm sure that people, I mean, people always are, degrading people's work to make their
I think
new work
Einstein
look
was it was a theoretical physicist,
right,
uh,
right.
and he did a lot of earlier stuff. I think, and there was like I'm just going off offhand memory here, but there was another scientist that came out with roughly the same thing as he did at the same time. But it's not that weird for that to happen because all these scientists are already going off the work of their people that came before them. Science isn't one giant discovery all the time. It's a lot of little discoveries all the
Jim,
time.
what do you think
more than
power
anything.
would have been like if Tesla would have won? Do you think that it would have been hard to
Tesla did win.
control it? No, I mean, he didn't win. I mean,
What do we use? Alternating current?
Well, it
but he
depends.
didn't win, dude. It's not his name that gets fucking written down in the history books as to
He
who
didn't
got to supply
monetize
the
it.
power and build all the framework for our country and basically the world now, right? So it's this guy named Edison, right?
Edison was just a cutthroat in
Mhm.
his business, though.
He had the money. He patented every fucking thing.
Wasn't it for Tesla, we wouldn't have three-phase power. We wouldn't have three-phase motors.
He
Right.
invented wireless charging.
Yep.
We just didn't start using it until recently.
But he don't get the credit. That's what I'm saying. Like,
Oh,
He-
he gets the credit.
Lemon cherry combo.
he doesn't get the credit where your kids learn. You learn all this stuff way after high school and middle school. They don't talk about Tesla in public schools. They talk about this Edison dude because he's the American guy, right? Tesla's not. So
Okay.
no, he's not a sacred cow. Edison's he was a business savvy person, dude. He had all his connections, so he could make stuff work.
And weird that he worked in the patent office.
It's weird how that happens. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of see what people are making.
Density is low from planet formation over time, but in the galaxy that is not the case. There are dusty remnants of countless nova and material left over from the star formation events of the galaxy. So the galactic sheet is more ion dense, a galactic magnetic reversal, and a much more dusty region than we find in our own solar system. Now, out of those three, it might seem like the galactic magnetic field reversal and the extra ion and electron density are the scarier propositions than the dust. But in fact, it might be the dust that makes the situation so awful. To understand why, we must investigate a phenomenon known as recurrent nova.
There are quite a number of these recurrent nova that we do know of. Here's an interesting picture of one called T-Pix. And by the way, this first image was the T-Pix nova of 1997, and this was the T-Pix nova of 2011. It just goes boom over and over and over again. Beautiful plasma physics swinging into view with how they're pretty sure the eruptive character is when it comes to at least this one recurrent nova. And so what this is here, and this list will be ever expanding, these are the current recurring nova in the Milky Way, with the exception of the one that was just discovered about a week and a half ago, that was in the Large Magellanic Cloud. I don't know if they're going to count that one as being in the Milky Way or not. But take a look over, it's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th column, where it has a bunch of years. Those are the known outburst years. Just take a look at how many times these ones have actually gone boom, some of them. All of the lectures that students are hearing right now, and some of the best literature reviews on this topic that you can find, very much conclude one thing on this list. It is egregiously under-inclusive. They say that our viewing of the heavens at this level is so nascent that there are almost certainly supernova that we have seen that aren't supernova, that we will see them go boom again, and they will make this list. They believe that there are many with hundreds to thousands of year cycles that we simply have not seen go boom even once. And when we do, we'll have no idea it's a recurrent nova for hundreds to thousands of years.
That's wild, Jim.
And so come to ask what the trigger mechanism is. And it is currently thought to be close-in binaries that is feeding material down onto one of the other stars and basically causes a thermonuclear explosion on the surface.
There is no doubt that some recurrent nova are binaries feeding material down onto their partners, exploding in dramatic fashion. But this has implications for stars with dusty encounters on their way through the galaxy. Apart from dusty filaments and gaseous clouds, the central current sheet is going to have a higher dust density coinciding with the extra energetic particles. This is due to the same mechanism that allows a static duster to work in your home. That electric field is going to contain a surplus of that dusty material, and indeed, we're learning that the dust content overall may be much greater than we realized. The same mechanism described for recurrent nova binaries works on some level for these stellar dusty encounters, except with a current sheet, we also have a surplus of electromagnetic particles as well, all during a galactic magnetic field reversal. The proposal for what that could mean for a sun that is known to have the ability to produce rare superflare type outbursts already is something close to the stories of our ancestors insisting the sun has a dark side.
Many astronomers, physicists have hypothesized that at one time there was an immense solar outburst from the sun, maybe 100,000 times what it is right now. Tommy Gold was one of the first to suggest this hypothesis, and it has been followed up by other people. So many physicists, many astronomers believe that in the past, millennia ago, there was an intense solar outburst, and so I'm going to pursue that.
One that I have been focused.
I think it's a conference room.
He looks like he's in the room of a hotel, though. Like there's his curtain on the window right there.
It said they were at Los Alamos.
Oh, okay. They say if India and Pakistan launch nukes, it will kill 2 billion people.
Yeah, in India and
over
Pakistan.
there.
Yeah.
What do we have to worry about?
Oh, you mean at each other? Yeah, go for it, fellas. Figure it out. It's not my problem. It's not my fucking problem to worry about it. Jesus Christ.
I'll be right back.
Okay.
Thank God he's gone.
I know. All he does is argue with us. Why do I bring this guy on every week? Oh,
because I argue with you.
Look at the planet's on fire.
Focused on lately has been the antediluvian, the so-called biblical flood, if you will. On average, about every 10,000 years, you can expect a catastrophe to happen. For the most part, the civilization is wiped out. It's a horrendous catastrophe. It wipes out a pre-existing civilization and most of the people on Earth. And so we must start anew.
A consistency of reports from around the world of catastrophes that are amazingly similar. But a lot of people thought it's just what people dream up when they have a lot of time or they're dreaming or whatever. It's just stuff that people naturally come up with. Velikovsky thought it was catastrophes that people witnessed and remembered. That's very different.
What's called the 4 o'clock rapids, 56 concentric. Actually, it's less than that because these have started to undergo rotation. Here's one on the Navajo Reservation, Bronze Shield, 3rd millennium, Middle East. This is a 56 ray from Kazakhstan. Somebody locked the doors because at this point people are going to start escaping, but this is a 56 ray circle axis mundi from China. And these are actually drawn as paintbrushes. You know, the axis mundi here, the tree coming up in the center. But anyway, the 56 are there. In Arizona, it's the same thing. Pick that one up. This is unfair. I think.
So these are ancient civilization artwork and stuff, or carvings that they found.
Right, and they've drawn these things that they saw. Well, the speculation is they drew what they saw appearing in the sky, which were these plasmoids.
Well, maybe that's why there were so many religions that
worshipped the sun and sacrificed people to stop that shit from happening again, because they knew their history. Like, hey man, 2,000 years ago, because for them that wasn't that long compared to us, right? They knew the stories. And they're like, we got to start whacking people, because they didn't have the science yet, but they knew enough. Yeah, so this is why, when you see this stuff, and it's around the world, it's not one civilization, it's around the world. And these are obviously the survivors who did it, right? They said, oh shit. And like they said, it destroys the civilization. It doesn't kill everybody, but it destroys civilization. And if your top scientists and your top doctors and all those people perish, it's going to take a long time to get back to where you were, when this shit happened. And like you said earlier, Jim,
if it's that bad and everything gets wiped off, it destroys all of our infrastructure. There's nothing. There's no more wires. There's nothing. It's all gone. You got to start completely over. It's not like you can go ever fix anything. You got to figure out how the fuck to how to mine the copper, then how to do how to make a copper wire, all that stuff. Because if there's no computers, you can't look it up anymore. And all the books, they're gone, right? I mean, they're gone. They got destroyed. So you're basically starting at nil again. Pretty crazy.
But it's a plasma, so we would expect it.
It's not what they taught you in school because they gave you it nice and coded. But again, remember, the people
Maybe
in
they're
the
off
U.S.
20 years,
government
30 years.
who saw the sun flare up and get the information back from the moon when we brought the stuff back, they were mostly scared. The sun does something terrible. They didn't know when. They felt they had no power to change it. You see, our tools have shown us things that they couldn't have possibly seen 50 and 70 years ago.
It's one thing to look back at our ancestors and the stories they tell and say, you know what? You guys did a pretty good job inventing geometry, philosophy, architecture, but we're going to just take your most important stories and just going to pretend that you guys are crazy and made them up. That's one giant leap, especially when they could predict eclipses. What you got on the left there is a piece of Muscovite mica. This was taken here on Earth. It is only the third ever found rare cosmological event, they say. All of the black stuff around there, those are normal fission tracks. That's real cosmic rays. That's what cosmic rays look like when they hit. But there's this exclusion zone around what they call the rare cosmological event. They know for a fact that it's not electrons or positrons, and they represent a residually input positive charge that didn't discharge outward, but it discharged from the center. And it looks exactly like the cosmic jet that blasts out of a star when it's born. It looks like the cosmic jets that you see from the center of a galaxy when it eats a star. And so how do you get a residual positive charge to basically bathe a crystal such that it takes it in and it can't discharge it out? It's still bathed in the stuff. It has to discharge in the center. There's actually missing atoms in the center. No, they're not really missing. And I would argue that, while not definitive, something tremendous from the sun is not a terrible first hypothesis.
The galactic trigger, the dust and gas mechanism for superflares and recurrent nova, the evidence on the moon, the stories of our ancestors, the global nature of the disaster, all point to the sun as the destroyer. But is it a superflare or a micronova, and does it really matter? To look at this question, we will first investigate the recent history of magnetic events on Earth, starting with the one ongoing now. The key element in this overall process is one that has already begun to unfold again here, and the clock is ticking as we move deeper into the shift. We know that Earth's magnetic field has begun an acceleration beyond its normal wander, and coincident with that is the loss of field strength. Magnetic reversals as rapid as 80 years have been recorded in the paleomagnetic record, and we are already more than double that many years into the current shift. While moving more slowly than the record-fast reversals, things have begun to intensify. The Earth's magnetic field is currently decreasing by approximately 5% per decade, with the north and south magnetic poles set to meet in the eastern Indian Ocean. While the north is moving much faster, the south has already left the continent of Antarctica. The timeline is on the scale of a few decades to 100 years, presuming things don't accelerate any further. Seem impossible? Well, these are the current motions, and that is not disputed. But this magnetic meeting point scenario also has interesting coincidences, and not a one of them is bright and sunny. First, this region was an incredibly interesting place a few years ago, until the data disappeared. Buoy in event mode, south of Bali. For those who monitor the ocean, this is a familiar sight. The tail of this buoy starts with another, and begins long before there was such a thing as Station 53046. You will notice the primary areas of coverage, from the Solomon Islands, east to the Kermadec Islands, and up around to Sumatra, all locations of powerful earthquakes in the last few years, except this central three, including 53046 in the middle. Like I said, our story begins with a different buoy, 56003 to the right. She's had a turbulent life, as you can see here. In October of 2008, they put her down, and it was barely a month before the wild readings appeared. She was immediately taken offline. During the time she was down, another buoy was put in, 56001 to the left, put down about 350 days later in October of 2009. She ran fine. 03 came back at a much lower sea depth, but in the exact same location before jumping back up in 2011. Station 56001 began deviating in November of 2011, and one must assume it was about that time they hatched a plan to add the third buoy to the group, 53046. It was a few months later in mid-2012 when she began to send back information. Within a few months, the action began. Short but significant drops in the sea depth, this channel began reporting rapid seafloor rise and the buoy was taken out of commission by the Australian BOM. Clearly it is back and in the exact same place, but when you factor in the further movement of the last 36 hours, more than 100 more meters, which is barely visible here at the end of the chart, we have officially eclipsed the 1,200 meter mark, or just about 4,000 feet. This could be volcanic, could be related to the fault destabilization described in many of our previous videos. It looks like this part of the world is a significant place to watch. One of the biggest alternative news stories of that time was that a few days after...
No, the sea floor is rising.
Oh, okay.
Because the Earth is growing.
Well, where's Dan Blackroyd when you need him? He could have explained that. He would have said, there's the expanding Earth theory. There he is.
All he's got is Applebee's comments. Could be helping us.
I haven't been to Applebee's in probably 25 years.
I prefer Chili's.
Chili's,
baby back.
Chili's, probably the same thing.
I want my baby back, baby back, baby back.
Yeah, just don't go to those places.
Cheap restaurants.
This video aired, the buoy disappeared, and to this day, both it and its data are gone. Further complicating the story is that this region forms a geographically small triangle with the strongest magnetic point on Earth, the South Magnetic Pole, and with the Dragon's Triangle, Asia's version of the Bermuda Triangle. And indeed, that new pole position is near where those airplanes disappeared in recent.
Hey, Matt Barr, come on in, buddy. Hey. The water's warm.
And the sea is rising.
Yeah, we promise not to abuse you in any way, shape, or form.
A little touchy-feely.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Recent years. Now, since one pole might reasonably be expected to emerge on the opposite side of Earth, we find that to be here, in South America, or perhaps just offshore, forming a geographically small triangle with the weakest magnetic region on Earth, the South Atlantic Anomaly, and the Bermuda Triangle, where airplanes may have been known to encounter a difficulty or two over time. So the magnetic poles are on a collision course, at a point near the magnetic maximum point of Earth in the Dragon's Triangle, with the other side of the world, where the other pole would be, happening to sit next to the magnetic minimum point of Earth and the Bermuda Triangle. This is not your normal polar wander. This is a true shift, and Earth is already down approximately 20% in magnetic field strength and decreasing. As if all these coincidences aren't enough, there is one more, and it is the big one.
I decided that a magnetic reversal had an awful lot to do with the dinosaur extinction. And then the more I researched, I realized that magnetic reversals also, as far as I'm concerned, trigger ice ages, and that they return in the cycle in a regular pattern that we should actually be able to predict. When you have the onset of an ice age, of course, here's the conundrum is that.
What's up?
Is that all Matt Barr crying, all his tears?
No, I don't. Let's just.
I don't know.
Some kind of storm.
Who knows? Randall Carlson, Space Weather News interview. Yeah, Randall's an interesting guy. He's not a he's a hobbyist though, right, Jim? He's not a educated person in the field.
I don't know what his educational big. He's taught classes on geology, so I don't know if he has an actual degree in geology or.
He has life experience.
He's teaching classes.
Right.
Yeah, like at some college. So, but I don't. He's been doing it for a long time. I mean, like I've seen pictures of him when he was a lot younger. You know, younger Dryas.
Then you've got to have a very large, rapid accumulation of glacial ice, which requires that the climate be cold enough that ice does not disappear through seasonal melting. At the same time, you have to increase the amount of evaporation from the oceans in order to loft this much moisture into the air that can precipitate out as snow that ultimately is compressed into glacial ice. The problem is, as you can see, is that it requires heat. So there's the kinds of conundrums that we're confronted with when looking at this. See, our predecessors from a few generations ago had it a lot easier because they could imagine that the whole process took 100,000 years or longer. We don't have that luxury anymore.
A recent paper in the world's #1 geophysics journal highlights this disaster that looms on the geological horizon, but it's not something that happens hundreds of thousands of years apart.
We call them excursions, magnetic excursions, which is, a term that's well integrated in the literature now. And these are very short-lived reversals, but they're associated with minima in field intensity, and it's the minima in field intensity that are implicated because when you have low field strength, you enhance UVR.
How do you go from the heat and energetic input of the solar blast to an ice age? The answer will ultimately determine whether a solar aspect is a super flare or a micronova.
Sometimes admitting you don't know, at least your mind is open to look for more evidence. Right now, the pressing issue is, if I'm right that this next Gleisberg cycle is going to be when the reversal happens, I'm going to be like 99 years old. And some of you are probably not going to make it either in 27 years. But it's for the children and grandchildren and the unborn generations.
Oddly, as vastly more energetic as a nova event would be than a solar flare, it may bring about more of the cooling effects to our planet. To explain the ice ages occurring with the magnetic reversals, we must actually look to either that nova-like event or the tilting of the Earth's crust, which vexed Einstein for a solution he never found beneath our feet. The sun does not bulge, in blatant disrespect of physics. It has a secret. Its cycles always build to greater crescendos, and the great solar blast could truly disrupt our entire planet. While Vogt does not advocate for a tilt of Earth, he does advocate for a reversal of rotation. The stories of the sun rising in the wrong place. The stories of the long night where tribes believed the sun might never rise again. The stories of the sun standing still in the sky. All of those ancient stories from around the world complement those found in the rock. Interestingly, either a 90-degree tilt and tilt back and forth, as was described by Chan Thomas, Albert Einstein, and Major White, or the rotation reversal advocated by Vogt, both leave evidence of the poles residing in the same positions over millions of years, cycle after cycle bouncing back to the same places, such that if you were to look over long periods of time, you might think the pole has never moved at all. Here, it is Einstein's hitting a brick wall that actually gives us our best chance to know what's happening. Like Chan Thomas and all who came before him, Einstein saw the tilting of the crust. His problem is that the most likely geophysical actor is Greenland. Its massive ice weight creates an uneven distribution of mass in the northern hemisphere, which due to centrifugal force of the planet's rotation, wants to spin at the equator. The problem of geophysics, which Einstein realized and never overcame, is that Greenland is unlikely to ever gain quite enough ice mass to unlock the rocky crust from the liquid mantle and float freely. It is that unlocking of the crust that is so critical to the crustal tilt possibility. Einstein, Major White, the researchers throughout history, and Chan Thomas are all focusing on what's known as the low velocity zone, a thin barrier between the rocky crust and fluid mantle, but which acts like plastic due to a delicate thermoelectric equilibrium, meaning the temperature and electrical activity create the plasticity and the friction. If that equilibrium were to be disrupted, it would allow the crust to float freely on the mantle and allow for any number of tilt or plate collision scenarios to occur. Well, how do you disrupt the thermoelectric equilibrium that's creating the low velocity zone? A major solar blast. Such an eruption would immediately change viscosity in the magma due to cosmic ray bombardment, and also cause temperature changes, which would only add to the temperature changes resulting from any induced currents that resulted when the shockwave hit Earth's magnetic field. Those events are indeed globally induced, and they are electric. We may also scale up the two known drivers of length of day glitches.
The solar blast is going to be so hot, it's going to heat up our magma.
No, the electricity, the protons.
Well, no, that'll change the viscosity of it.
You know, that the electricity, the increased electricity inside the Earth will cause the viscosity to change.
Some pretty insane fucking suppositions.
So Ron W. says Edison believed in DC, Westinghouse was AC. I thought Edison.
Westinghouse worked with Edison and Westinghouse worked together.
But
Tesla was
Westinghouse
AC.
was like the money guy at first. I think. I have a bunch of Westinghouse stuff here in Austin.
Well, they're huge. I mean,
I'm sorry. Westinghouse was with Tesla.
Yeah, Tesla. I mean, it was AC.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Westinghouse was with Tesla. Edison had his own General Electric. Was Tesla.
Mm-hmm. Wasn't Honeywell involved in there too somewhere? Was Honeywell?
Maybe. He might have been a subcontractor.
No, I think it was something like Westinghouse and Honeywell were the first two big companies besides Edison, I think, at least in the beginning.
Yeah. I think Westinghouse robbed Tesla is what the problem was. Like Tesla didn't get
because Tesla had like a financier because he wasn't a rich man to begin with.
No, Westinghouse was his financier, but Westinghouse got like he originally worked for Edison, but Tesla got like some kind of deal with Westinghouse where Westinghouse owned the patents that Tesla developed.
Right.
Believe it or not, those are real. They are usually small
God
glitches,
bless America.
self-correcting or spread over long periods of time, and are either caused by major solar storms, geomagnetic jerks from Earth's core, or in the case of the longer-term variations, Earth's long-term magnetic field changes. Now, since the length of day means we are talking about rotation speed and crustal motion atop the mantle, it bears mentioning that in the greatest solar storm imaginable, which could induce current all the way to Earth's core if we know modern-day blasts can affect the mantle, makes for possibly combining the two causes of rotation speed glitches in the same energetic solar mechanism that would satisfy the ancient stories, disrupt the low-velocity zone, and unlock the crust. We are now at the second time we have found ourselves confronting way too many coincidences to ignore.
It's a little bit difficult to go back and to say, well, the story is not exactly so. We have the phenomena from all places, from the bottom of the sea with ash and with nickel, which is of meteoric origin. The terrestrial axis moves.
Say the N-word.
That paleomagnetism proves us that terrestrial axis, that magnetic axis, and possibly like Runcan and others of Manchester claim that the Earth turned over.
How dare you, Andrew? You come from a
we know
state
now
country.
from observation of Professor Danjon, director of Paris Observatory, that flares on the sun may influence the speed of rotation of the Earth, and there were sudden changes. We generally don't like to know that we are traveling on a accident-prone planet.
What were all these ancient people saying? What were all these people trying to remember? We must take the words left to us in generations of oral histories and written records of observations in the sky as instances of events that were not the norm. They were so important and unusual that they have come through time as warnings left by our brothers and sisters of the ancient past. These events were not lunar eclipses or earthquakes. Now in this time, with our understanding of celestial mechanics, atmospheric, and geological sciences, we must try to make sense of these recorded events and untangle them from worship and prophecy. It's time to look at them for what they actually provide as a roadmap of things to come. We can ask the question, has the Earth stopped rotating for any length of time in recorded history? And the voices call out to us from the ancient Middle East. The book of Joshua in 1405 BC. O sun, stand still over Gibeon. O moon, over the valley of Aijalon. 1013. The sun stood still, and the moon stood motionless while the nation took vengeance on its enemies. The event is recorded in the scroll of the upright one. The sun stood motionless in the middle of the sky. It did not set for a full day, and those same voices call out to us from ancient Peru. Also in 1405 BC, the 40th Inca Capac was Pachacuti, the reformer that started the worship of the sun god Inti. In 1405, there occurred a frightening darkness. Quote, good customs were forgotten, and people were given to all manner of vice. There was no dawn for 20 hours. After a great outcry, confessions of sins and sacrifices and prayers, the sun finally rose. Has the world experienced a global cataclysm before? And will it happen again? And what was remembered, and how is it described to begin again? The voices call out from the ancient American Indians, and this is the ninth and last sign. You will hear a dwelling place in the heavens above the earth that shall fall in a great crash. It will appear as a blue star. Very soon after this, the ceremonies of my people will cease. Has this cataclysm happened before? The voices call out from ancient China. There were seen fire-breathing dragons leaping into the sky. They call out from ancient Siberia. The earth was on fire from both horizons. And they call again from the ancient past in the voices of the Inca. At the Intihuatana was a stone cut with great precision to observe and measure the movements of the sun. The name meant that which binds the sun, and it makes it return, at least it disappear, returning the earth into a darkness that had occurred once before, according to the legends. Did the Inca, Chinese, Siberians, and the rest remember the last micronova event in their oral histories? We need to take these people seriously.
Now let's take a moment for the respect of geophysics and things like basic inertia of the Earth's rotation being unimaginably unstoppable.
Yes, Mas, an earthquake is also a possible explanation. But what causes earthquakes? There is massive data to suggest that solar activity causes earthquakes.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does. Every major earthquake is tied to a solar flare.
Bullshit.
Okay. Look it up.
Show me evidence.
It's right here. Pay attention.
That indeed is the current prison from which Earth's catastrophe cycle must escape. The tilting of Earth's crust is restrained by the evidence that the poles and the ice existing at the polar regions have done so for millions of years, and both the tilting crust and Vought's rotation reversal are battling the force of inertia of our rotation. The reason that the poles and ice matter is because the entire topic of catastrophe was umbrellaed under Charles Hapgood's absurd version, where 7-degree tilts happen randomly and over 1,000 years, and never tilted back to put the poles in their original positions. This concept was easily debunked, and there went the field of study. However, the previous versions to Hapgood's, Vogt's rotation change, Major White's insider version, and the Chan-Thomas classified version all put the poles in the same places over millions of years. Furthermore, the most highly cited work on past pole positions, which was used to debunk Hapgood's work, and which was used to crush the field of catastrophes as a whole, actually has a correction paper published, which was cited far, far less often, and which nobody really remembers. But it changed the past pole positions from the original publication, in some cases to the point where the original paper had them on the opposite side of the planet, as wrong as you can be with a polar search. Another of the well-cited papers debunking the polar motion came from a bachelor's student at Columbia. While in theory, a major paper does not require a major degree, this student worked under the CIA-controlled programs at Columbia, at the time when it was becoming so rampant and overbearing that the...
All right, Andrew Campbell, there's a link in Dave's chat for Nature magazine's article on the correlation between solar activity and earthquakes.
I was just going to say this, though, Jim. The U.S. Geological Survey says there's no evidence. Like, no, solar flares have anything to do with this. But then you go to, like, Nature, and they're like, yeah, there's some correlation there, guys.
So what I'm hearing with all this, it's not the whole planet doing that. It's just the crust.
The crust just slips. I don't know that I'm not saying this is true. I'm just saying it's interesting.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm just trying to understand what they're saying. I almost thought it.
I mean, my problem with it is that why would it always go back to the same spot if it moves? I mean, would just?
Yeah. Why does
it's like a slinky? It's like a slinky.
Well, but why doesn't it go halfway around, right, Jim? Like, why doesn't it just shift halfway?
Why does it go 90 degrees, then 90 degrees back? That doesn't make sense to me.
Right.
What's up with the Earth's wobble? There's like this wobble of the Earth that they say like every 3,000 years or something causes stuff to change. I mean, like, what causes why was the Sahara of a lush, all this lush garden, and now it's a desert? Why was, I mean, look, they just found those footprints in New Mexico that they know are 30,000 years old, and for some reason.
The whole reason we have seasons is because the Earth tilts away and back from the sun at different angles, but it's more like a twisting around. And so.
Yeah, but there's some wobble though, something that happened.
That's the wobble. Yeah, that's the wobble.
Yeah,
the local
the earthquake things. Once it happens, though, Jim, it just starts all kinds of crazy shit along with it, right? Like like the tidal waves. What was the one a few years back? They killed 100,000 people in like 5 minutes. As soon as the wave hit, they were gone. There were no coming back, guys. You're all dead.
You're watching videos of that one in Thailand or wherever.
Yeah, it killed 100,000. Yeah, horrific, dude. Horrific.
Because you've seen it go out first, and then because I've seen some big waves come in at a beach and everything, and even then it's a little creepy. Like just how much power that is when it just comes back and then comes up a little bit more, like during like hurricanes and stuff.
When I was a kid, I used to live in Alaska, out in the Aleutian Islands, on this little island called Adak. It was a Navy base. And one night at the house, my parents were having a party on a Friday night. Next thing you know, we're all getting in the cars because the tidal wave warning sirens went off all on the base, and everybody knew they had to go to the top of the mountain there in the base, and we sat there for hours waiting for this tidal wave to show up. It never did, but so apparently there was an earthquake out in the fucking Aleutian Ocean, and this was in the 70s, and they could still kind of say, oh, there's a big earthquake, we got to protect our boys, let's make sure that the tidal wave doesn't hit out here. So but
there's evidence of massive tidal waves all along the Northwest, the Pacific Northwest and stuff through Washington, so.
It's like Atlantic is hurricanes, and the Pacific is what they call them over there. They're not hurricanes. Typhoons, yeah.
Typhoon.
Or cyclone, I think, too.
Yes, yeah. Why is it different terminology? It's the same thing, right?
It's the same thing. It's more common to call them cyclones and typhoons on that part of the world versus over here.
Okay.
Because they all travel in the same direction. They both go west. So, and they usually land, like the ones that usually hit in like, Asia and stuff. So they call them typhoons.
Okay. So we took it from them on the West Coast, basically, or on the Pacific Ocean side. Okay.
This is how you control a scientific theory, whether we further investigate the problem of the poles in the past or we cling to the concepts that don't require them. The only reason this topic is considered pseudoscience is because a wildly mutated version of the story was put out by a CIA agent masquerading as a professor and which somehow overthrew the centuries of study and literally the world of evidence.
One of the things that you and I have been talking about are the idea of these micronova events on the sun, these periodic cyclical eruptions on many stars based on the Kepler-2 satellite data. And that as this stuff is sprayed out into the universe around our solar system, and these things could have been blasted out from the sun in these periodic explosions, and that could have been deposited on the moon, on Earth, on Mars. The fact that they're only about 12 miles down indicates they're not deep penetrator meteor impacts. So it leads me now to believe that these magnetic anomalies, if not all of them, certainly some of them, could be from solar eruptions. And this is just solar material that is splattered out and these planets have run into in this huge cloud of debris once the sun releases these nova events.
Pause it, Jim. Got our first super chat of the night. Thank you, 300-yard wink for $2.79 Canadian. Very nice of you. Magnetic north and true north are 200 to 400 miles apart.
Yeah, well, it's moving. The magnetic north has been moving. It's moving.
That's why it's 2 to 400. Yeah, it's 200 to 400 miles apart because of that reason. The whole the magnetism thing is super interesting. It's not just there's a lot that goes in this whole electromagnetism, magnetism in general. Like it affects a lot of things.
I used to like industrial magnets when I was a little kid. Could ever get my hands on them and stuff. It's like you just make shit fly around and everything.
And then you get those magnets that like when you use them, Jim, there's like I can't even remember the name, but you don't want them to corrode. So as soon as they get any kind of dirt on them, you want to clean them off because they'll lose their magnetism because of reasons. So like I sell leak detection equipment, right, for water systems. And we have, I think they're called rare earth magnets or something like that, Jim. And they go on the bottom of these loggers and you go out and you set them on a valve in your water system. And then you set them up in a series. And every night at 2 o'clock in the morning, they listen for leaks on your water system. So if it hears a leak at 2 o'clock in the morning, it will listen again at 3 o'clock. And if it hears the same leak, it says, okay, that's a leak. And at 3:30, it turns itself back on and it records the leak. So then you, the manager of the system, you get an email notification or a text message saying, hey, you have a leak. So you can go to your computer, click on that logger on your computer system, and you can listen to the leak. And then when you drive out there, if your system's GPSed and you've got all the distances in there, you open up your app, you go to the 2 leaking loggers and you hit start correlation, and that's going to correlate the distance between the 2 loggers of where the water's leaving the pipe. Now, my point is those loggers are submerged in water. They get super dirty in these pits, Jim. You know how they are, right? I mean, you've seen them before. But they just sit on a valve. But you have to take them out and you got to clean them. You have to clean these fucking magnets because if they don't stay clean, they're not like shit magnets. They have to stay clean. But they're super, super strong. Like they stick and they hold. Like we sell a little tiny magnet like this, Jim. It's for our locators. But we can stick it to a ductile pipe or a cast iron pipe or a steel pipe, put that magnet on the pipe, then we hook our locator up to it, and it's strong enough to hold my cable and stick to the pipe, and I can send a signal down the pipe and locate it. So it's all electromagnetism, Nicholas. Like we're all working with electromagnetism here. So sorry about the work lesson, guys, but it is what I do, and I do kind of like it. I mean, I've been doing it for a while.
Propane and propane accessories.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Shut the hell up.
Sorry. I'm done.
No, that's for Nicholas because he said propane and propane accessories.
Oh, okay. I was like, oh shit, I'm talking too much on my own show.
No, I was just ridiculous. Propane, I'll sell propane and propane accessories. That's Hank Hill.
Yeah. Oh, man, I used to not think it was funny because and then you watch it again, you're like, oh no, this is super funny. I don't turn it off when it comes on when I'm in the hotel room and you got like TBS playing and there's King of the Hill or whatever. You're like, oh, I'll watch this. But I
used to have an ex that used to call me Boomhauer because I don't know if you noticed, but I mumble a lot.
Yeah, I can tell. Hank is a great dad. Yeah, he is a great dad. He wants Bobby to be his best person, man. That's all he cares about. Be honest. Don't be a liar. That's what my wife used to tell my kids. You can do anything you want. But the first time you lie to me, we're fucking done. She does not tolerate liars. I'm like, wow. Yeah, Andrew, if you want to, we'll have you on tomorrow night, dude, and we can talk about the wokest game ever made. Look, dude, I don't even care about woke anymore because woke is, it is what it is, but I want to hear about a shitty game. Is the gameplay any fun? I mean, sometimes if the story sucks, Nicholas, you can't get through the rest of the game, right? You're just like, oh, you're bogging me down with nonsense. I don't want to hear this.
I don't play that many. Yeah, I only play the games that are considered like to be the best. So like the last couple of games that I've really played are like Red Dead Redemption 2 and then Cyberpunk.
Which had a lot of problems.
I still play Grand Theft Auto 5. Yeah.
Everybody does.
Well, I mean, I had to, it wasn't as bad if you had a good computer, at least.
Yeah. Well, in about 20 days, guys, I got something I can't wait to show you guys. We're talking conspiracy theory stuff tonight, Andrew. We're not talking games or ripetard shit. We're just having a good time. There's a lot of people here watching this and people are actually interested. Like if you're not interested in this, you just don't care about like what could possibly be affecting our lives that we don't even know is a thing because nobody's telling us this, Jim. Every day I get a text or a DM from Jim with my daily solar report. It's awesome. He was late today, like super late. I even berated him.
I woke up late.
I've been seeing other people posting them now too.
Well, thank you, Jim. Jim's made it popular. People come on this show and they see it. It's cool. People like this stuff. I mean, people are watching me. I'm an idiot. The chat's way smarter than me, but they appreciate what we do. We have fun with me being stupid, but I'm not that dumb, guys. Let's not go crazy. Yeah. Shane Davis equals what? Fahrenheit? What is that symbol? A lizard. That's what that is, right? Is that a lizard? Looks like a lizard, right? Shane Davis is equals a lizard. I'm waiting on my art, Jim. He finally got the money, so.
Yeah, he said. I think last night he said he sent it.
Oh, he was on Ethan's show last night.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Was Ethan stream sniping us last night? That was weird, right?
Oh, no, just for a little bit.
Well, I don't think that was really stream sniping. He was playing.
He was just playing a clip
from the same show.
Yeah.
Who clipped us that quick? Was that Pastor Flash? Did he do that? That son of a bitch?
Not sure.
Not sure who did it.
Is that true, Jim? Did you get
what?
Somebody asked you that question? You just DM me? Or you just DM me?
DM in the wrong people.
No. Oh, back to the show.
Catastrophic flooding. I believe this goes along with a solar outburst at the time, which caused glacial melting virtually instantaneously in the ice core records and in the sediment records, but particularly the ice core record. We see that we snapped out the end of the last ice age virtually overnight. I mean, literally the microstratigraphy
what Andrew asked in the chat
accurate.
On the screen.
And what happens to what?
Oh, I got a bunch of them.
The cause of coming out of the ice age so quickly. We're talking incredible
stuff over
temperature.
the last couple of nights.
Yeah. No, he put up he came up with a 500, a very limited, only 500 red Trump covers that instead of saying fight, instead of saying never surrender, they say fight.
So he's making them.
Making 500 covers. So,
okay.
Yeah, I got a dozen.
They're not the original. So they're not the original.
No, it's a new cover.
Okay, so he's not screwing the original backwards, right?
Completely new. 500 only. I got a dozen. I got a dozen, one for each of my disciples.
So I'm going to get 2, right? Because I'm your favorite disciple? Because I didn't know this was a thing. If I would have known it was a thing, I might have ordered one. Because I bought the shirt.
It was a very limited thing, and they went fast.
Asking the ARA chat.
Look at the pyramids.
Increased, and based on many lines of evidence, I've now been.
See, look at this guy. He was in the tunnel. Now he's at the Sphinx.
Is that guy that's talking? Because he's like the only guy that I've seen in photographs.
No, this isn't Ben Davidson. I can show you what he looks like.
No, the guy.
Who the fuck is this guy? Because they keep showing him.
This is one of the researchers.
Is this the researcher talking that we see the picture of? That's what he's
right.
asking.
That's the guy talking right now.
Yeah,
this guy.
That's what he's saying.
How the fuck didn't you get that, Jim?
What?
Get
what?
Because that's Jim. You gonna play it?
Oh, sorry. I thought we were talking about something else.
Accumulating. I'm convinced this was a major solar outburst, a major solar event. I'm now convinced that we have direct evidence on the Giza Plateau of a, quote, lightning strike, unquote, which would not be a lightning strike in the sense of normal thunderstorms, that type of thing. But I'm convinced that it probably is indicative of what was happening at the end of the last ice age, and that the Giza Plateau itself was literally hit during the solar outburst. But I now am convinced that we have on the plateau direct evidence of this, as we have elsewhere on Earth, and it turns out on the plateau was found something known as the inventory stela, and this is something I've been studying in great detail with my colleague, Dr. Manu Safzadeh, and it talks about Khufu, the supposed builder of the Great Pyramid, acknowledging that the Sphinx was already there and that the Sphinx had been struck by, quote, lightning in much more ancient times.
The lightning strike that he speaks of is between the second pyramid and the Sphinx. So the pyramid with the capstone, if you will, there that's still intact, and between that and the Sphinx, the back end of the Sphinx. So it's vitrification everywhere and a big.
Andrew Rowland, I did not get a notification that it shipped. I get notifications from the post office and from UPS whenever anything is shipped to me through those services. I got one claiming something is coming from an area around Illinois. I don't know if that's where your book is coming from. If that is, then it's you. If not, I don't know.
One state over to the east.
Okay, so I don't know.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
maybe that's it. It was at a
would that
facility.
be Delaware?
Yes.
Yeah.
One state east of Illinois is Delaware. Yes, you're close.
Oh, thanks, Salty. You're the greatest.
Scar going deep into the ground.
We have major vitrification because of this, quote, lightning strike. And again, I would stress it's well beyond anything that you would get with normal atmospheric, thunderstorms. But vitrification there, I'm convinced, as we're finding elsewhere, that ties in with the phenomena, and I'll use the term cataclysm at the end of the last ice age. When you have vitrification at this level on something like the Giza Plateau, it cannot be a meteorite or a comet or an asteroid, because that would have literally destroyed the monument. You wouldn't have the monuments left. On the inventory stela, it talks about this huge lightning bolt knocking off part of the back, basically, of the Sphinx.
There is a concern for the lower level L-shell magnetic fields, the smaller arches instead of the global fields connecting to the polar regions. In most solar blasts, even the worst ones we only see every decade or so now, the magnetosphere of Earth compresses down to those outer L-shells, but still connects to the polar region in the most exposed outer zones. But in the extreme scenario, it could be very different. The modeling of the Great Solar Storm of 1859, for example, which lit telegraph wires on fire and shocked operators, came close to hitting the lowest level L-shells. And if that were to actually happen on Earth in a superflare or micronova, then you get the potential for a magnetard-type discharge, where its own...
You know what's the only thing's worse than a magnetard?
A ripetard. Yes.
Processes are thought to surge energy through its L-shell fields, arc down, and literally crack the surface of the star. At that point, the loss of power grids might be one of the lesser concerns. As for the electric geology, lab results confirm this action on terrestrial planets. The only question is, did it happen before and could it happen again?
You have to bring in new evidence, and it has to adjust.
Okay. He just said they confirmed it on terrestrial planets. Maybe I'm stupid, but aren't all planets terrestrial? I mean, Earth is terrestrial, to us. But so if it's a different planet, that's terrestrial to that planet, wouldn't it?
No. Terrestrial, Terra, Earth.
No, but that's just a term for a planet. It's terrestrial.
No, for this planet.
Because interstellar, terrestrial.
Extraterrestrial.
That means not from our planet.
Because terrestrial usually refers to Earth.
Terrestrial, just this planet.
Well, then why would he say terrestrial planets? That was my question. Like, why did he say terrestrial planets? Let me go back, because I'm like, wait, is there a different type of planet that's not terrestrial? Like, that's a planet that's not, or maybe are they talking about rocky planets? Maybe not gaseous planets.
Yeah,
like gas giants, like Jupiter and Saturn and Venus.
So,
gas.
You're saying Earth is just a term for rock and dirt, right? So
maybe
if it's a terrestrial planet, it's rock and dirt.
Like Mars would be a terrestrial planet. Maybe I'm.
It's Mars planet. It's Martian planet.
Shut up, Nicholas.
Where its own processes are thought to surge energy through its L-shell fields, arc down, and literally crack the surface of the star. At that point, the loss of power grids might be one of the lesser concerns. As for the electric geology, lab results confirm this action on terrestrial planets. The only question is...
He said on terrestrial. Yeah, that's what I thought, Earth and rock.
Right.
Well, Terra means Earth.
No, it means rock and Earth.
Well, Terra means Earth. That's the etymology of the word.
Listen, just because you watched fucking Guardians of the Galaxy and that blue guy kept calling Earth Terra, shut the fuck up.
Did it happen before and could it happen again?
You have to bring in new evidence, and it has to adjust your theory, because theories are just theories. Now, one of the interesting things about the Clementine mission is it took magnetic readings of the entire surface of the moon and found the largest magnetic anomalies on the far side of the moon, around von Karman and Leibniz craters on the far side, which is exactly where the Chinese just landed a lander.
He just said the far side of the moon.
What about it?
There's a picture.
And a laser light show.
I don't believe this. Who took it? Who took
Chinese? He said it was the Chinese.
Oh, well, they did go to the dark side of the moon. I know they did.
Fuck the Chinese.
Yeah, at least they're going.
China know.
You know how they knew? Because they could see on that dark side.
Anomalies on the far side of the moon,
in trouble,
around von
what are you doing?
And Leibniz craters on the far side, which is exactly where the Chinese just landed a lander.
Does China know? Does the U.S. government know?
Go Chinese.
All the information shared here is published in major journals, with admittedly a bit of connect the dots as well, trying to fill in the gaps of the researchers throughout history with the tools they didn't have. Certainly, it seems like the CIA had it pegged decades ago, at least the fact that there was a cyclical catastrophe, and perhaps as early as Major White's Project Nanook expedition to the North Pole. It all relates to the all-important question of survival in the catastrophe, and the only good news we have to deliver in this presentation. There is evidence of tremendous retreat of the populace into caves and tunnels thousands of years ago, multiple times actually. These tunnels have been reused countless times over history, including during wartime and by smugglers, but their purpose was once to house the humans who, for some reason, could not remain at the surface. As terrible as this event is, we must remember that we are here today, so we have survived countless catastrophes and come out on top of this world. We are survivors. Our government appears to believe it has what it takes for the country to survive. What may have begun as underground shelter for the military elites, and which may have expanded as the result of threat of nuclear war in the mid-20th century, what exists now is a complex, interconnected underground world, far greater in capacity than could ever be needed by the military. One must genuinely begin to ask how many people could fit down there. There are many maps on the internet and lists of deep bunkers and bases, but these are just the ones we know about. Most on these maps are even acknowledged publicly. There's no telling just how much more exists.
Pause it.
And how.
And go back to the map real quick. Just hit the L button or the J button. Yeah. So, look at the South. Nobody cares about the South. There's you guys can all fucking die. Why are they all out west? Why is a big majority out west?
A lot of it's empty land.
Yeah, they just have all this empty territory, right? Even Texas isn't getting much love. They've only got 3, but they skipped Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi, Tennessee, fucking Alabama, Florida. Nobody down there. Y'all are fucked. Look at the Midwest.
Look at the tunnels going through Chicago, going out to Iowa.
Look at Missouri, Illinois, Iowa, Wisconsin, fucking Minnesota, North and South Dakota. They're fucked. They can all suck a dick too. Like, what the hell? Build yourself a bunker, boys, and stock it with sardines and fucking water, because that's what's going to last, right, Jim?
Yeah, cans of tuna, beans, Spam. You know,
tuna and beans. That sounds fucking.
Get plenty of little gas canisters for your Coleman stove, so you can cook that Spam.
Yeah, you want to buy? They sell the fuel tablets for cooking. They have these little tablets.
What are they?
They're Trilene. I think they're made. They're called Trilene tablets. They're for cooking.
I never heard of that.
Yeah. And,
just make someone start a fire for you.
It's basically like Sterno, but it's solid Sterno.
Oh, okay. Not Sterno, I know, yeah. All right. Lodine.
Twinkies do not keep. There's a whole thing I could get if you want. There's a guy who did the thing. Twinkies do not last. That's a bunch of bullshit. They go bad fast.
Elemental, you have no shot. Nobody's letting you in their bunker. They already got those spots reserved, dude. Everybody's
just go to the Denver airport. That's where it's all interconnected at the Denver airport.
Yeah, amazing how many that are in Denver and New Mexico.
Yeah,
Arizona.
It's weird that they would build these giant bunkers underground, a mile above sea level, right? Like they don't want to get flooded, but they want to be underground.
There are many maps on the internet and lists of deep bunkers and bases, but these are just the ones we know about. Most on these maps are even acknowledged publicly. There's no telling just how much more exists.
No, Baronitis, the old ones too, before they got brought back. There's a channel, it's called MRE Steve 1989 or something like that. Steve MRE 1989. He tests all these old, he eats a lot of old food, like old shit from like World War II and stuff. He opens up the cans and eats them. He's a fucking maniac. Yeah, but he did a whole thing on Twinkies. He had Twinkies going back like 40 years, and they're basically like all discolored and nasty and got mold growing on them.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So if you want to check out the channel, he does like all these MRE tests, the different MREs and stuff, but he eats like old shit. Like he had some stuff from like the Civil War, like some can of tack or something in World War I and all this weird stuff, and he opens it and eats it. And
now,
that's going to kill you. He's been sick several times and hospitalized, by the way.
Is most of the canned food stay pretty good, though?
As long as you have to check the can, and if it has any types of bulges or anything in it,
but bulging at all, it's garbage. Right. Yeah.
Right, as long as it's not bulging or anything. And you can tell, like, you open it up, and if it smells bad, you got to throw it away. Yeah. Yeah, he does all types of stuff for all the MREs all over. It's a great channel. I watch it. That's where I get my advice, and why I stocked up on the MRE pizza, pepperoni pizza MREs. It's actually pretty good.
I mean, do you ever go grab some just to have one?
MREs? I have. Never mind.
No, I'm saying, I know you.
I've got an entire closet filled with MREs, dude.
My question is, do you ever just go grab it to eat it because I want to eat one? Like you're like,
yeah, I eat them all the time.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I'm asking. Yeah, I'm not saying
they're great. The snacks, they have all types of snacks in them and stuff that you can eat. The only thing that really goes bad on them that you got to get rid of right away is the store-bought stuff. Like they'll put like M&Ms in there, they'll bloom out on you, or they'll put other candy bars and stuff in there. They go bad fast. They don't last, but they'll last as long as you keep them below 70 degrees. They'll last 8 years.
Oh, so if I keep them in my basement all the time.
If you freeze them, they'll last forever. Yeah.
Oh, like a good like meat, just freeze that shit.
The MREs, they're shelf stable. If you freeze it, they'll last pretty much forever.
That's cool.
But MREs, the thing about them is heat. Like they're designed to withstand like three or 4 years at 85 or 90 degrees or something, but the lower the temperature, the longer they'll last.
Modern Russian MREs are badass.
Yeah, they got some good shit, man. The what's it called? The Kafka? No, Kasa?
Kaka?
No, it's not. It's like a buckwheat stuff with the meat mixed into it. It's got kefir. I think it's called kefirs.
Heifers?
Kefirs. He's a kefa. He's a kefa.
I was going to say, you're getting pretty close to that other person that got Nick in a lot of trouble. So I got an email just now, Jim.
Casa. Maybe Casa.
I can buy mushrooms on the internet.
Yeah.
Mushroom gummies.
Also, find a cow field right after it rains. What we did when I was kids.
Elemental MJ says kefir, Kefir. Yeah.
Kefir.
So, can you buy those?
Kefir.
Yeah.
So you can buy Russian MREs in America.
Yeah, you can buy the Russian ones. I mean, you get the American ones, no problem. You can't buy. You used to be able to go to like any Army Navy store and get U.S. military MREs, but now it's hard to get them because they're shipping them all over, giving them away to everybody else. So hard, they're hard to get. You used to be able to get them on like any base. You could go to just the.
But now they got all these companies that are just making them.
Well, no, the company that makes them. Well, there's all these other companies, but the company that makes them it's called
MRE company.
No. There's a company that makes them. They call it that you could buy. It's the same exact stuff for the military. It's just not in the outer wrapper from the military, the outer packaging, and it's called like. I'll think of it. It'll come to me, and it's not that expensive. I think it's like $100 for a case.
How much? How many meals are in a case?
Like 14.
It's fucking cheaper than going out. That's for sure.
So, and it's got everything. That's like a full meal. Whatever, 2,000 calories each one. So, and it's the variety pack. What the fuck's it called?
One MRE is.
Yep. Dave's gone.
Almost worked. Slowly but surely.
Where'd he go? Well, who said that? Son of a bitch. So you got a closet full of MREs, huh?
Yeah. What the fuck?
Are you going to play the video?
Yep. Sorry.
No. He's going to sit there and play.
And how ready the country really is.
The U.S. government knows some of this stuff. They know the sun does nova. There's no debate about that. The question is they don't want you guys to know about it. If it's no longer a secret, there's no point in keeping it a secret. They're desperately looking for any other explanation. Don't look at the sun. That's it.
The rebirth of catastrophism has unquestionably begun. For those watching our daily program, it may already be obvious how much more rapidly the papers on the topics relevant to Earth's catastrophe cycle are coming out, and how much more attention they're receiving in the larger media. We are 6 months past the release of our book on this topic, The Next End of the World, The Rebirth of Catastrophism, and the last 6 months have been an even more incredible flurry. The topics we cover in the book are now being flushed out and expanded and reanalyzed at a rate that is staggering, utterly staggering. Here, 6 months after our book proclaiming the field had been reborn, let me show you just what's happened since then. From the ancient stories to the astrophysics to the paleogeologic studies and the lab work showing how worlds are worked by these electric events. Here we go. Would have been really nice if these guys had just hurried about a month or two so I could get this in there alongside Billy's lab experiments. One of the most voluminous aspects of the field's rebirth is in new corings and sediments and similar analyses showing these events within both the 12,000-year cycle and the 6,000-year magnetic half-cycle. We are seeing their confirmation at various places across the globe, and their varying intensity across the globe, suggesting it's never a global unsurvivable.
So you know how the Mayans predicted 2012, right?
Mm-hmm.
Imagine they're only off 30 fucking years.
So this is the place if you want to go.
I love how you just blow past that. I mean,
yeah, I know they're off, but this is the place. It's called.
Imagine they're only off 30 years. Is my point. Only. It's not like. I mean, that's pretty close, Jim. That's pretty close. When you're talking about predicting shit 2,000 years ago.
Yeah, this is the company that makes all the U.S. stuff for the U.S. military SurePack from Sopaco, and you could get them. They're cases shipped to your house. They even have low sodium ones, but the low sodium ones I don't like. But it's the same exact stuff. You get it with the heaters. Each one comes with a heater, and it's basically what's in the military pack. The only thing that's not in these is like the toilet paper and the matches and the pack of gum and stuff that you get in the military pack, and sometimes you get some other stuff. But what's really good is if you can get.
Does it show the pricing?
Sure. Let's see. I know. Yeah. So, the prices went up, so it's $113.40 a case for the
I need an affiliate link.
Yeah.
You need an affiliate link.
And they also have the old freeze dried. They're selling the freeze dried stuff from Mountain House, but you go to Mountain House and get it.
Oh, no, I look at that and I go, that's probably going to taste like shit.
Actually, I'm gonna tell you right now. It's not on. Where's it at? It's not on here. The scrambled eggs and stuff from Mountain House. It's not bad. You go to Mountain House directly and buy them. Get the tins. The best thing from Mountain House, I mean, hands down, it's fantastic. Is their chili.
Oh yeah,
their chili mac. Fuck yeah, dude! It's fucking the bomb.
That stroganoff looks pretty good.
Yeah, you just add boiling water and let it go, and stuff's not bad, man. It's good to have. You gotta have some freeze dried foods because they last 25 to 30 years. The freeze dried stuff from Mountain House. You get the tins.
Mm-hmm. You ever had that freeze dried candy?
Yeah,
it's pretty good.
But everyone should probably. If you live anywhere where there's storms, you could lose power, stuff like that. You should have a couple cases of MREs in your house at all times. Cycle through them every couple of years. Mountain House freeze dried stuff, but you gotta for Mountain House stuff you gotta have boiling water. So.
I have a cousin who's
but I got a gas stove, so I'm okay for the boiling water. But 12 meals for $100 is cheap, Jim. I mean, it really is.
No, because it comes with the drinks, it comes with coffee, all that stuff, and drinks, protein bars, everything in the whole meal.
I like how the low sodium with heaters is $13 cheaper.
Yeah, and you get 16 reduced sodium meals as opposed to the 12 other ones. I don't like the reduced sodium ones.
Is salt that expensive?
No, it's just they're shitty meals and nobody wants them. That's my opinion.
But what if you added your own salt?
It's just everything has low salt in it.
No, I'm saying if you had a salt shaker, could you fix them?
No, because it's not that. It's just, the stuff needs salt.
Okay. All right.
Not everyone likes so much salt, Jim.
You need salt to survive. If you're getting not enough salt in your body, your electric system in your body won't function properly.
Yeah.
And
but
you'll
that
die.
doesn't say no sodium. It says low sodium, which is what you need to survive.
All right.
Die of a heart attack.
Enough of my free ad.
Disaster, but a harsh transition nonetheless. We are learning more about how our species was challenged but endured each of these past events, and we've seen modern technology extend these studies into deeper analyses of our ongoing situation and the secular variation of the field in general. Few people know of the new observation sites planned to monitor the field event, including one by the Indonesian government that is exactly where the magnetic pole shift has them set to meet. Yet another nod to what modern observations and the last generation of catastrophists claimed as well. The most critical studies in this line of the field came with the identification of another anomalous event in the field progress back in 2015, which explains most of our scary geomagnetism videos from that year, and a confirmation of the 2017 acceleration of the field centered on the Pacific sector, above that LLSVP. Remember that last bit about the field changes tied to the regions above the large internal Earth structures for later in this video. A quick stop at Greenland, where two bombshells dropped in about a week. The first suggesting that Greenland melted off entirely in the recent geologic past, and then the second describing warm periods at half the age of the alleged oldest Greenland ice. The datings of corings must be re-envisioned entirely.
You can actually can your own stuff if you want to. You can do you can store your own beef, actually, like ground beef. You fry it and everything, and then you store it in a can, and the layer of grease seals it closed. On top of it.
So you buy like the 80-20, so the grease is still there.
You pour it in with the grease sits on top and seals it. When the grease hardens, it basically like a wax seal over the top of it.
Yeah, him and my mom said they used to can stuff like growing up.
Yeah, large sealed glass jars, stuff like that.
Or even fruits and everything too,
yeah.
Like peaches. And...
Oh, yeah.
Folks, that's the retrospective look at the magnetic cycle and Earth changes during past events. Now, let's head out to space. In the realm of nova, we continue to see the standard view challenged with anomalies and extended outburst ranges, and the nova we've been missing are starting to show up with the latest technology and in ways they never thought to look before. Dr. Sofu's first paper made the book. The follow-up discoveries were just a few weeks too late. We continue to see the micro and even nano nova limit pushed, with one at X-ray luminosity around only a strong M-class solar flare from the sun. Nobody is claiming a 10 to the 34 erg burst from our star is impossible anymore. We continue to see shockers like planets surviving supernova, let alone the smaller nova events, and we continue to be reminded of the broad array of names given to the recurring stellar outbursts. Just a reminder, this is just in the last 6 months since the book came out, because you'd be forgiven for forgetting. We're at the whales next, where we've got confirmation of their dependence on Earth's magnetic field, and that happened about the time we were learning of their distress being at record levels amidst the ongoing magnetic excursion here at Earth. We saw more on the conductivity of the deep Earth and how it should be part of the entire conductive system of the globe, part of the electromagnetic mechanism for glitching the Earth's rotation, changing the length of a day, with solar storms getting a nice nod confirming their role in the matter, especially in its interaction with the geomagnetic field. And as that field changes, so changes our speed, apparently. The fastest 28 days on record were in 2020, and we're speeding up even more in 2021. Would have been really nice to have that in the book, along with the asthenosphere drag of the crust, which they thought was impossible until apparently just after the book came out. We see the difficult science of galactic mapping continue with identification of the magnetic structures of the galaxy, with a look to the side, so to speak, revealing the curve of the wave, showing we're in the southern positive sector, heading into the northern negative sector. We've seen them trace these ripples to the circumnuclear region, even way inside the galaxy, and as they confirm that the Parker spiral in the solar system extends way, way out to the outer reach, as the lab work and plasma physics demand, we know the same must be true for the outer reach of the galaxy as well. And we have seen a number of excellent studies on the sun's current sheet effect on Earth that can be used to understand how the sun will react so violently to the passage of the galactic sheet. Remember this one from a few months ago? A strange radio signal is expected from a star recently having undergone its ignition of disaster by the galactic sheet, as was the case with the Proxima Centauri superflare a few years ago. We expected to continue to hear about changes on the planets, and the Pluto atmospheric collapse was the last one to make the book. Neptune's storm reversal news broke a few weeks later, and is impossible without a major reversal of some major system on the planet. In terms of the ongoing event here, our ability to spot changes and new observations in Earth's upper atmospheric behavior, extreme detail about the processes of Earth's electrodynamics, is helping to better understand the data, and where they believe they previously underestimated flux values, I argue those flux values should be changing due to Earth's ongoing magnetic event. Sort of like the polar mesospheric summer echoes that are increasing. These are driven by charged dust and ice, and while they blamed a colder mesosphere on making more ice, the problem is at 90 below zero it's all frozen already, and the increase in charged particles due to Earth's weakening magnetic field is an excellent explanation, and add some extra dust coming with the galactic sheet, and we've got a 1-2 punch explaining this perfectly. Some of the observations are less hidden from view. Numerous similar reports around the globe are all bested by the one from the Arctic, shattering records and is on the increase. Another we'd expect, given that the northern polar cusp is where the solar energy prefers to enter the Earth. As we learn more about what drives the chemistry of the solar corona, we ask what signal of the galactic magnetic reversal would be present in the sun now. And within 20 days, we learned that indeed the solar chemistry is changing, and at the exact time the polar mesospheric echoes increased at Earth. The primary solar chemical changes are beginning as well. Now remember that part about the geomagnetic field variation tied to the LLSVP internal structures of Earth, the solar storm Earth rotation glitch story. Here, we discover yet another confirmation that electromagnetic variations and core mantle coupling are the cause of expected changes in the length of a day, confirming the anomalous glitches tied to geomagnetic jerks and solar storms, both in the statistical analysis and explaining the mechanism. They tie the slow variation, or delay in the Pacific, to what we inferred from the first real acceleration event for the Pacific happening in 2017, again, above the LLSVP skeleton, and indeed, these are the preceding routes of the geomagnetic reversal process. Not news to you observers, just nice to see it in the journals. As more and more studies begin to point out the climatological changes associated with previous cycles were to blame for extinctions rather than human hunting, the seriousness of the situation is appreciated more by the field and the larger population. From the multitude of papers like this one on such risk in journals most people never hear about, to the story of 2021 so far, by far, which was spread around the world, acting as a beacon, warning anyone and everyone who knows we're in the middle of the next event now, and what that means for our future as the pattern change rate suggests 20 to 30 years until the climax. Folks, that was 6 months. Nearly every major avenue in the book confirmed or taken further down the line. The planets, nearby stars, Earth itself, and the sun, all commanding our attention. I'd say the field has been adequately reborn, wouldn't you?
But he's not saying it's going to end the Earth. It's just you're going to have to be able to survive what's going to happen. Right. So he's not.
So why is it the end of the Earth?
He's saying it's
End of
not.
the world.
It's not.
Why are they calling it the end?
They're not. They're saying it's a disaster cycle.
Yeah, it's a disaster. Like a lot of like civilizations will be destroyed. That's going to happen, but not all of human race is going to be wiped off the planet. You know, it's not going to be a Younger Dryas event, right, Jim? Which
no, it might be a Younger Dryas event.
You think it'll kill all like the big fauna, like that type of event?
Well, it didn't kill all of them. It just killed them in a certain area where, for some reason, all the water came flowing out of those. I think personally, I think it was when all those glaciers melted real fast and it flooded everything. It just killed everything, just wiped everything out. You know, giant, massive floods.
And then the climate did change after that in those regions, so the big fauna didn't grow back, right?
Right. Well, no, the big fauna is the like the woolly mammoths and the megafauna.
Well, also the plant life too. I'm talking about, right?
Well, plants kind of some flora changed and stuff. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, the redwoods.
Plus, you know,
the redwoods seem to have survived.
You know, plus
fauna come from? Why are they calling animals fauna?
There was a massive decrease in the amount of carbon dioxide in the air, so we had less for plants and stuff to grow, and less plants and stuff means less oxygen, so the things couldn't grow as big. So you got smaller animals and creatures. And, the giants started shrinking because they couldn't have enough oxygen to breathe. Yeah.
The Earth is breaking apart.
Well,
in this image, yeah. This is this is the jerk, right? This is like the jerk, Jim. Kind of this image we're seeing here, yeah, right.
The rebirth of catastrophism.
Water put all that shit out.
What's that?
I mean, it's like
Nick? Does the water put out the volcanoes in Hawaii?
Nope.
Well, it's like volcanoes
catalyzed
coming
by
up through the ocean.
The age of information, getting its hands on the history of evidence and analysis of Earth's catastrophe cycle, and the evidence suggesting the next one is unfolding now. By the end of this video, you will understand that this is much more than the rebirth of catastrophism. It is a complete science revolution, hiding in plain sight.
Is that me or him?
The Earth has hit the accelerator.
What?
He sounds robotic to me.
Oh, no, it's got to be you. It's not robotic to me.
Okay. Am I robotic to you?
No.
No.
Okay. Weird.
Does get I get a lot of pops out of his stuff though.
Yeah.
Like I can hear a lot of pop in there.
He needs a pop thing on his mic.
In auroral anomalies and unexpected severity of space weather impacts. We've seen absurd land motions attempted to be blamed on farmers digging. Okay. We've seen the seas catch fire. Not once, actually, but twice. Allegedly, the first was a broken pipe that coincidentally got hit by lightning, but the second one gave itself away more plainly in the mud ejection. We have seen such a surge in the Earth discharge version of lightning, upward, that they are starting to understand it very well. Talented people like Dan Robinson are able to get shots weekly that photographers used to dream of once in a lifetime. There have been no less than 50 papers in the last 4 months identifying one or more of the last magnetic excursion events, some from cave sediments, others from corings. But we continue to see the cycle, even though some still confuse Lake Mungo and Mono Lake, and even today, many confuse Le Champ with the half-cycle Adams event around 42,000 years ago. It shows up a lot, and so do the half events Helena Pali and the Noah event, 18,000 and 6,000 years ago. There have been dozens of new recurrent nova, leaving a star behind or performing encores of previously seen events, and seen many more nova-level events with energies no bigger than the sun's solar flares. And in terms of driving forward the known science, the importance of the sun's current sheet, the solar wind BY, the interplanetary magnetic and electric field, is as big a factor in Earth's electrodynamic near-space interactions as CMEs and coronal holes. Of course, these are major impact studies in big journals to the tune and detail I used to expect over years' time, and they are important because they tell us about what the galactic current sheet is doing to our solar system and nearby stars now, and what it's going to do to the sun. And speaking of the galactic current sheet itself, the high-level modeling is getting unbelievable, especially in terms of how many waves they are producing in just a small section of the galactic interior, more than the total number of visible dusty spiral arms in the galaxy as a whole. They have also begun to discover more of the expected small-scale features like the filaments running the interstellar magnetic field, the galactic magnetic field through the midplane. M82 was discovered to have almost identical character to the Milky Way in the models, and while plasma and electric cosmologists like to think of magnetic fields other than necessarily being open or closed, it's literally the qualitative description of the interplanetary magnetic field connections through the solar wind. Just, this is at the stellar and galactic scale. Now that would be the peak in galactic astrophysics for the last 4 months, if the key competing theory to this one wasn't obliterated again by Bennett and Bovee. While the waves would still inflict the same effects on the sun and solar system if it was due to a dwarf galaxy collision ripple, we do like to get the entire story right, which is why we wanted to add to the knowledge of the amplitude of the galactic current sheet waves of 60 to 170 parsecs, the wavelength of those rippling undulations, tens of light years across. Compare that to the visible arms of the spiral galaxy, 1,000 light years across or more. Of course, the real zenith of the galactic astrophysics news the last quarter was the identification of those waves themselves, here in our neighborhood. It's actually where the wavelength data came from, and the hum and associated anomalous signals all help solidify the notion we are inside the galactic current sheet right now. Our look at nearby stars continued. Proxima's continued activation in the wake of its super outburst a decade ago continues, and we can say the same for Barnard's star, since its exoplanet was debunked, meaning its luminosity changes are due to its luminosity. We also have the first look at Wolf 359 in about 2 years. This one is out ahead of Barnard, and we confirm it's super flaring. Its initial activation would have been before the modern scopes that could see it. Mars is really...
Yeah, I was playing it fast because it's a long video.
It's a long video, yeah.
I'm just wondering, like,
I'm playing at 1.2.
Sure, and of course, and a bunch of stuff that I have no fucking clue what he's talking about.
Well, dude, like, this is why you go to school for this shit forever and learn it, because watching a 1.5 hour video, you almost need to watch it in slow-mo because, like, there's so much.
Everything is just talking.
You're like, holy shit! I know he's trying to do this to make it palatable, Jim. He's going from thing to thing to thing to make you understand, but
for who? Doctorates? People?
Well, or even the common person, but the common person's like, the dude, I just kind of understood what you said 20 minutes ago. Like, it's a lot. There is a lot here. And it's good. It's interesting as hell. Like this like answers more than Ancient Aliens, and they answered a lot of questions for me, Jim. They answered so many questions. Julio Scissors finally joins the show. What's up, brother? How you doing, buddy? Playing D&D again tonight? Hey, and Motto's here. I haven't seen Motto talking all night. He must be soaking in all the knowledge. And Motto's probably taking notes. He's like, yeah, I got to take notes on this. This stuff's super interesting. Go ahead, buddy.
Me?
Yeah.
The only planetary level change we saw updated the last 4 months, but the confirmation and continuation of its anomalous seismicity, which is predicted to ring even higher soon based on the patterns, is an indication of the great shift on the red planet as well. We saw more detailed identification of the non-human extinction parameters for megafauna during
the football season started.
I have no clue, and I don't care.
Yeah, I don't.
Would imagine preseason would be starting next week or something, wouldn't it? I don't even know, but it's usually what it is, isn't it?
Because Julio said he was watching football. It must be preseason still, right? Isn't it normally start after Labor Day? The only reason I cared last year, it was a college game. Oh, you got to watch Deion Sanders, Colorado, play North Dakota State.
College football sucks. College basketball is good, but
college football is the shit. I love college
kids
football.
don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Yeah, but I don't like it as much anymore because all these fucking college athletes are paid, so they can all suck a dick too. They're prima donnas. They transfer teams at the drop of a dime, Jim. I hate it. I can't stand it anymore. I can't watch college basketball because back when I used to like it a lot, you got to know these kids for 4 or 5 years on the team, Jim. Like, you could watch your team and it would be the same players, freshman, sophomore, junior, then maybe they went pro, senior. Some weren't good enough to go pro. All right, so football starts next Thursday night. Well, I guess I better... I'm not paying attention. I don't care that much. I thought I did. I only care when the Lions are doing good. And they did good last year, so it'll be another 30 years before they do good again.
I haven't watched football regularly, hardly ever. Last time I did was when Michael Vick was out. He was a pretty good dynamic player. It was fun to watch.
Red Scorpion, the only question Ancient Alien needs to answer, why can't Giorgio find a decent barber? Well, because that's his signature, right, Jim? That's Giorgio's signature, that big boofing hair. It's awesome. Now, Gary from Nerdrotic has a claim to fame with Giorgio. They were roommates. You know that, right, Jim?
What Who was roommates?
Gary and Giorgio from Ancient Aliens.
What?
Yeah, that's what Gary claims. For a short time, they were roommates. When Gary worked at wherever, when he was editing videos for videotape or DVD release. But go ahead, buddy. Let's get back to this. Can't be here too much longer.
The last event, about 12,000 years ago, and while we've seen about a dozen articles on the minutia of the bird magnetoreception, the shark study was clearly the observer's favorite in the magnetobiology realm. Now we're going to get to the big stories. Folks, this one debunked the last great doubt about the imminence of danger in Earth's magnetic situation.
Ooh.
Some have drawn comfort in Earth's relatively high modern field strength compared to paleomagnetic records, but as we've responded for years, no. How strong you get inside of the cycle doesn't relieve you of the cycle. When it's your time, it's time. Up next, it's the large low shear velocity provinces, the LLSVPs, the massive internal skeleton of Earth, and they're getting better at mapping its fingers up to hotspots, with the confirmation of the direct connection between the core and Hawaii, those near the Spanish islands in the Atlantic, and Reunion in the Indian Ocean. We also learned that the core of Earth is lopsided. All that stuff about symmetrical Earth immune to perturbation instabilities is out the window from the surface terrain down to the core. The total global electric circuit connections with the solar wind provide further evidence of how our star will be affected under the galactic magnetic reversal coming with the current sheet. What is most interesting is the rapid forcing identification, also important to solar climate forcing, even faster than the minute scale forcing on clouds that we've seen before, near instantaneous, instant, light speed fast in terms of the forcing influence of geomagnetic dings from the sun. Speaking of that, the unusual chorus waves at the top of the sky are a sign of changing upper Earth under the weakening magnetic field. The total electrical influence on lightning has gone beyond the Arctic to allow for the identification of 2 new kinds of lightning this summer alone. The weakening field is driving critical frequency changes in the F2 layer and is allowing for sustained ionospheric disruptions despite weakening solar activity. Despite that lower solar flare impact the last couple decades, the Earth has been taking an equal pounding due to the weakening protection. And we've also seen the carbon story, the Arctic story, and the real cause of climate change collide as even the lower atmospheric chemistry in reaction is changing now. We had a fantastic update on Earth's rotation glitches being tied to geomagnetic jerks from the core, and we saw that they were actually mistaken. Both the cycles they identified are basically solar cycles known in other fields to be connected already. We got more on the conspiracy side after learning that Major White did more than just Project Nanook in the Arctic. He directed and appointed spies in Europe and Africa immediately afterwards, a weird task for a pilot explorer, and then was in charge of manned spaceflight operations for Apollo, which found the glass and other evidence of the Great Solar Flash. By the way, the best evidence for the Earth turning over 90 degrees comes from the evidence Major White stole from the Pentagon meetings to give to his son to publish years later. And in that same vein, these scientists are right now being tricked and trying to figure out how dinosaurs may actually not have been cold-blooded. Otherwise, they couldn't live where they found these eggs in the Arctic. Of course, the other explanation is that this region wasn't at the pole during that cycle, and the only reason those eggs were found and preserved in the first place is because a warm area was rapidly inundated and frozen in time. As if the no ejection nova events we've previously seen weren't amazing enough, we've seen 2 no luminosity ejection nova events, one at the giant star that blinked, and a confirmation of that hypothesis for Betelgeuse as well. Sometimes the main, primary, and seeming...
Ooh, he only said it once, thank God. If he said Betelgeuse, oh shit!
Betelgeuse.
Betelgeuse!
The only nova component is the thick dust, and you don't get a major flash. Some think the other giant star has an orbiting disk that's occulting it, but they've never seen it before or since, and they know Betelgeuse's dust came from a dust ejection event on the star itself. After wondering for years if indeed this government, university, and private interest-funded visual was a centrifugal breakout nova from the equatorial region of the sun, rather than a CME as the video label suggests, we learn they have found exactly that out in space, and it matches the predicted solar micronova energy range we have forecasted, if not a touch smaller. Hopefully, we recall the sun's magnetic fields are changing and that the helium abundance is changing. We got the confirmation and update of that discovery just a few weeks ago. The sun's helium abundance has begun to change, and it won't be many years before this takes over visually. Then, of course, the paper of the year so far, the identification and naming of one of the key cycles at the foundation of Earth's disaster cycle, the connection between major solar events and the half-cycle climate smacks on the planet, the Heinrich events. The solar events finally joined at the hip in the publications.
No, I've always been very
into stuff,
inquisitive, and then read a lot of stuff. And growing up, I used to read the encyclopedias.
Yeah, same here. Dictionaries and textbooks of all my older siblings and parents. I love that stuff.
So you were never a sports guy, Jim?
Yeah, I was in sports. I was just football guys with once they put the name of that rapist guy who tried to kidnap those kids in Wisconsin and got shot with the knife. Jacob Blake. When they did all that, I was done, and it was not to be played in my house ever again.
Yeah, when they took the knee, it also bothered me a lot. Like,
yeah, that wasn't. I was like, whatever.
Really?
Yep. That was it when they put the names of those people on there that were,
the victims. Yeah.
Yeah, the criminals.
Mm-hmm.
As they have been in the sediment and throughout time. Folks, there are now almost no remaining holes in the total theory, and that's including the minutia, which wouldn't even really affect the outcome one bit. But the best question at this moment should be this, or maybe more appropriately phrased, what the heck is going on? Why do I have more to report by the month, by the week? Why are the key arms of the disaster so well studied now after being fringe and cringe for a distinguished professor just a decade ago? Those papers are the top professors, top folks from NASA and major organizations, the journals with gatekeepers and the peer reviewers. There are two answers to why this is happening, and the first one is there is an absurd number of scientists who are starting to get it. On a weekly basis, I coordinate with dozens of those scientists at various universities and organizations, and they know what's coming. They know what they can publish, and they know how to use their free time wisely. This is spilling over into abundance recognition, citation power, and more. And that is where the second part comes in. You,
grant money.
Folks, are silent friends in high places at NASA and ESA and national labs and prestigious campuses. They have a message for you. You are driving this change. You click the links. You watch the videos. You discuss the topics and share information. Do you understand how views, downloads, and citations of papers leads to a direct change in the researchers, the journals, and the direction of the fields? When a journal that averages a few dozen or maybe 100 views on its top articles a year does one special episode on magnetic excursions, gets thousands of views and downloads per paper, that it doesn't affect them? It's been affecting them this entire time. You have been. Let's keep going, because the snowball is rolling now, and it's all downhill from here.
What'd you say, Nick?
I said I feel very judged by the ending of these videos. It's
Why?
like accusing everybody of everything. Do you know? Do you understand this?
He's telling you that you watching these videos are giving these scientists more freedom to actually publish stuff that they would have been laughed out of the fucking university they teach in for even mentioning this stuff. So,
the whole thing about, like, oh, we're causing everything. It's all our fault. Think about how fucking mental that is, that we are affecting the planet.
Yeah. What the humans are affecting the planet.
Just the humans. They can't explain why there was all these rapid changes in temperatures before, why the Earth had way more carbon than it has now, and they know it did, carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. They have this evidence. They know it was a lot hotter than it was now.
I can tell you for a fact that every single climate change organization out there has zero fucking scientists on
No, I know, and because it's all about money and the government money, and it's just
political stuff. Yeah,
they're gonna they'll fuck around and they'll start taking carbon. We are actually in a carbon dioxide deficit in the atmosphere. We are teetering on the point where we start losing plant life.
Well,
that's why in all these greenhouses.
Do we need to kill people to solve that?
No, not kill people. No, carbon dioxide.
I like that idea.
No, because the higher the carbon dioxide, the better shit grows.
We Minecraft people here.
Why do you think in all the greenhouses they pump carbon dioxide into greenhouses to make shit grow?
Well, no, I'm talking about like the population. How you keep bringing up how they all want the population to.
No, they want the population to go down because they're all sick, demented fucks that worship Moloch.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, also, it's just less people around. People are annoying,
Really?
Well, I'm thinking for them. I'm thinking for them.
I tend to find people pretty interesting when I get to talk to them. They're actually nice. Most people are really nice. Everybody's got the same shit going on in their life, just at different levels, Jim, right?
But if you're like an elite person and you got all these plebs around, I mean, that's...
Yeah, well, then if there's no plebs, nobody's making that fucker's food or pumping his gas or flying his fucking plane. Yeah, they're not thinking anything through. They're not going to eat MREs, dude. That's not what they're going to survive on. They're going to have a house chef if they can. So They're gonna have a fucking. They're gonna have a bunker.
Yeah, and hopefully their chef won't drown in 3 feet of water like Obama's did.
Their goddamn bunker is gonna have cows and pigs and chickens and all that stuff, so they never eat fucking crickets or whatever they want to sell the plebs.
They'll have all the Soylent Green they could get.
Those fuckers would like it. Self-sustaining systems are out to 300 theoretical years. Yeah. It's crazy, man. I mean, these people are going to have it all, and we're going to be going, I should have listened to that.
Who would ever thought that Pauly Shore and was it Daniel Baldwin would be at the tip of the Biodome?
Was that Biodome? Yeah, that was good. Remember, Pauly Shore movies were actually fun. Like, they were funny, dude. He was a dork, but he had his moment in the sun. What, a good 5 to 7 year run in movies, Jim?
That was just because his mom was like the head of comedy in LA and had inroads to everything.
But you didn't hate him on screen.
He was all right.
Yeah, he was all right.
Buddy.
Yeah. I mean,
hey, buddy.
I'm not going to go out and look for any Pauly Shore movies, but I didn't hate him when I watched him, is my point. Like, I don't own anything. Was he Cave? Was it Caveman? Was he Caveman?
Encino Man. Encino Man. That was Brandon Fraser.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, Brandon Fraser's first big movie, wasn't it?
In the Army was good. They were like, oh, we're going to learn how to work on pools to get pool water stuff. They were, who's there? Why don't we have to worry about water? And then there's a war in Libya or whatever, or somewhere, and they had to go do the water. That was fun. Steven, whatever. I don't know. I picked the wrong Baldwin. At least I didn't pick the one that shot someone.
They got no time.
Expansion of the NOVA category in progenitors and triggers continues, including the NOVA-like variables and those that seem to jump around between the categories. This is, of course, imperative to the bigger picture of the more widespread understanding of the variety and range of NOVA events, triggers, and progenitors. We continue to see more identification of the processes of ozone destruction. This is expected as an ongoing effect of our weakening magnetic field and is now seen in the only positive ozone trend being at the South Pole, where those chemicals had previously accumulated. And that analysis didn't include the record low ozone levels in 2020. We're dropping worldwide. We also saw how the drops in ozone can hide in some data sets and not in others, which is where pretty much all of those opposing statement papers are coming from. We follow up the previously reported weird animal behavior with the orca attacks. No, it's not unheard of, but they are acting out in incredible numbers and in as unfamiliar waters as those sharks and whales and racing pigeons.
Orcas are attacking vessels?
Yeah, happens.
Really?
Is there any orca attack videos out there?
Sure, we can find some.
Let me look.
I want to see an orca attack video.
We also continue to see the ongoing geomagnetic biology topic advance from that navigation and other aspects of magnetoreception to even the negative effects of inclement space weather and geomagnetic minimum during secular variation, like the magnetic excursion we're heading towards now. The continued identification of polar summer mesospheric echo signatures brings back the big story that thermosphere temperatures are wholly driven by the sun and geomagnetism. Way up there in the sky, it's not CO2 as was previously believed. There's no signature of it at all. And so their explanation of CO2 for those mesosphere...
Go ahead.
Dramatic video of killer whale attacking boats in Spain.
Killer whales seen attacking small and large boats off the coast of Spain. There have been an increase in these encounters, and some wonder why. CBS 8's Abby Black shares some expert insight into what may be going on. Abby?
Orca Sightings Office says...
Show me the fucking attack. I don't need to see you, dumbass.
Yeah, she'll say it's our fault.
Video of an orca slamming into a 66-foot sailboat off of Spain's southern coast. The force of the whale damaged the hull. This won't help anymore. Crews had to pump water off the boat. You hear him try to scare off the pod, but orca attacks on small boats and yachts in the Strait of Gibraltar. At least 3 boats have sank in recent weeks. Researchers say since 2020, orca encounters in the area have increased. There have been more than 20 interactions recorded just
I think I know why this happened. All this started after they closed down SeaWorld and they released all those orcas back into the wild, and they told their friends what the fuck we've been doing to them, and they're pissed. They're going to get the fucking...
whale's always been like this?
They're going to get the sharks together. They're going to get the fucking big octopuses, giant squid. And they're going to start fucking...
Richard Harris make a movie about this back in like the 70s or 80s?
Yeah.
Dude, this video's got 1.3 million views on a channel with 34,000 subs. unbelievable. I didn't even know this was a thing. Are they babies or do you think they're playing with a ball? Like,
humans are lucky that the most dominant marine mammal in the world, the one which can be the size and weight of an American school bus, has shown a high degree of intelligence and is nicknamed killer whale, has never shown hostile behavior to humans in the wild. Until now. Since May 2020, there have been over 500 recorded incidents of orcas reacting to boats and even sinking multiple of them with humans aboard.
500 since 2020. And this was a year ago. So that was in 3 years, Jim. Holy shit.
Yeah, like I said,
the question is, why are they doing it?
Because we closed down SeaWorld and we let them all, we freed them all, and they told their friends, and it spread around. Now they all know, and they're like, fuck those people, get them.
Okay, let's see what he says.
And why now?
Oh, smart.
Is this the start of an orca versus human war? Before we answer those questions, we need to explain what.
I know we better not get the fucking Australians involved in this war, because they lost the war to the fucking emus.
And they couldn't even find a fucking Malaysian plane. Fuckers. So worthless. Those goddamn Australians.
And how this behavior is even possible. The attacks originated in the Strait of Gibraltar, a narrow body of water which connects the Mediterranean Sea.
Is Atlantis coming back, Jim? Is it rising out of the ocean? Are these whales like, oh my God, Daddy's coming back?
And the Atlantic Ocean. An important piece of context here is that this is one of the busiest waterways in the world, with over 300 ships passing through each day, about one every 5 minutes. We'll get into the why later, but evidently, orcas have found a problem with this traffic, so began to attack passing boats. What's fascinating about their attacks is that they aren't senselessly ramming into the side of the boats. They're going straight for the rudder, which instantly disables its ability to navigate. If the goal of their attacks is to render the boat useless, then they've already figured out the most efficient way to do so.
Fucking Anunnaki, they picked their new race, Jim. They picked the whales. They said, we're too fucking dumb. You go sink these boats, guys. If you can do that, we'll kill all these kill all these humans off, and you guys can take over for us. We just have to develop some ability for you guys to dig for gold, because we're still digging the gold for the Anunnaki, Jim.
Yeah.
So, similar to how when they attack sharks, they only eat the fatty, nutritional liver. But that's for another video. In 3 cases, they've actually managed to damage the boat so badly that it sank, and each time there were multiple people on board. However, they were all recovered safely. In fact, there has never been a recorded human death by an orca in the wild, for now. These attacks aren't short either. Their most recent sinking on a boat called Champagne
killed you.
Right. Another fact is that, Captain Flint from Treasure Island, well, his ship was named the Orca.
Oh, maybe they're looking for Captain Flint.
Yeah, maybe.
Lasted
Coincidence?
90 minutes. 2 orcas went for the rudder, whilst another attacked the side of the boat. If you're sat there wondering, are orcas big and strong enough to do this? This is a snippet from a previous video about orcas. I'll be referencing it a bit, so I recommend checking it out after this one. To put it simply, orcas are big. Males can grow over 9 meters and weigh over 10 tons, about the size and weight of an American school bus. Females are a bit smaller. Their streamlined hydrodynamic shape,
check the private
with
jet.
their strength, makes for a powerful stride.
Okay.
So powerful, in fact, they are the second fastest marine mammal in the world. So far, the Atlanta Orca Working Group have tracked 9 orcas orchestrating the attacks. This includes an orca named White Gladys, whose actual name is Blanca, and she may hold all the answers, but we'll come back to that later.
Jim, I'm
All
going
the
to send you
orcas
something real
attacking
quick
the
in private
boats
chat,
have been
okay?
given the Gladys nickname. What's important for now is the fact this behaviour is spreading. Whilst it originated in the Strait of Gibraltar, there have been recent reports of boat attacks in the North Sea off the coast of Scotland. So how are orcas learning this behaviour, and how is it spreading?
What's up?
Orcas are much smarter than you think, and they are incredible at learning. For example, when they are born, their pulsed calls don't resemble that of their elders, but as they grow, they start
Did you
making
see my
them
message,
breakthrough.
Jim?
And that's just one of the
private
many
chat?
ways
No,
orcas
I didn't see it
communicate
yet.
with each other.
Oh, and
They've
your
also
private chat.
created many ingenious
Yeah, that's
thinking
why he said
strategies,
private chat.
such as this one. There's only one
Yeah.
way to get
All
the
right,
sea
yeah.
lion off the
For the
large
lulz,
piece of
right?
ice
Yeah.
and into the water. As a group, they swim underneath the ice, but close to the surface, creating a wave which breaks up the ice. At this point, further waves are pretty ineffective due to the broken up ice, so the matriarch coordinates the group to slowly push the ice raft into clearer water. Orcas also have a complex social structure. They spend their whole lives in their family.
Dude, I think they're attacking because maybe there's too many. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. We stopped killing whales a while ago, right? Like, they're just too many. So they're just like, that looks like a fun toy to go play with. But interesting that orcas are attacking, and we think it's because of the electromagnetic pulses hitting the planet, right? No, that was I forgot the name of the channel, or something explained. But
Making
yeah,
it
so
irritable.
Jim, so what we're doing tonight, United, is we're learning how the sun is the key to why our planet resets every 12,000 years. And every 6,000 years in between, Jim, those 12,000, there's an event that makes things weird, but it doesn't totally reset everything, right? It's kind of the gist.
Mm-hmm.
So Jim's got a mission now, so
They confused the fuck out of us.
no, go ahead and hit play, buddy.
Changes takes another hit. The explanation that it's the Earth's weakening magnetic field is strengthened. When you continue to get confirmations of the natural forcing down to the stratosphere, the explanation that it's Earth's weakening magnetic field working those layers above, again, is strengthened. Then things get very interesting as the Heinrich events, already tied to the 6,000-year solar cycle, now are also tied to the tropical hydroclimate events, as well as those cold outbreaks at mid and high latitude. Speaking of which, a super green, greenest of the green Sahara is what existed at the last half cycle, 6,000 years ago. The NOAA event, which needed more evidence, got more in the volcanic realm, almost right on the nose. And in the isotope record, where this might be the best example of it, as the impact on deposition dwarfs what we saw even at the full 12,000-year cycle event, the Younger Dryas and Gothenburg magnetic excursion. Speaking of which, the volcanic evidence from the last event got strengthened as well. We had Texas sediment evidence to that in Europe of the German Eifel volcanic complex during the Younger Dryas. And when it comes to the LLSVPs, the Earth's internal skeleton, we got a non-flashy but critically important aspect of their character confirmed as recycling crustal material is found near the edges of the LLSVPs, but they themselves are not subducted crust. They are, in fact, core mantle boundary protrusions. These and the low velocity zones are critically important aspects of the disaster disruption in terms of the geophysical insult. And when it comes to mantle heaving, earth tilting, and the waters below, the evidence for unthinkable reservoirs beneath our feet rang out once again. We're standing on more water than you can envision. A lot more. Of the few Earth's rotation glitch stories, this was my favorite of the last 75 days. And for those who don't know, it is already mainstream science that many of Earth's length of day glitches, our rotation hiccups, are tied to solar storms, geomagnetic jerks, and longer solar cycles. This just happens to be a half harmonic of the sun's 3,000-year flare cycle. Speaking of geomagnetic jerks, the latest one was a global event. This compared to the 2017 event concentrated in the Pacific sector. It's not just the upper atmosphere having anomalies we can easily tie to the changing magnetic field, but the field itself continues to show new tricks. And speaking of new tricks, how about this one? Yes, it's just the baby step for the white dwarfs. Why they don't extend it further when they know solar flares produce elements? Every known element was detected in the solar wind by the JPL Genesis mission in the 90s, and the ongoing studies in this field are exceptionally detailed. Recall from previous updates that we know the sun's helium content is changing, and recall the number of coronal rain stories we had this week, how the falling condensate triggers eruptions, how it is triggered by a disruption at the upper corona, where the magnetic fields of the sun responsible for the helium change are also known to be changing. And this process...
Are you happy now, Dave?
Dude, that was so fucking fast. Like, what the fuck? There were 4 members like 4 minutes ago.
represents the second way to get the solar micronova shell built up. We've now got two options under the disruption from the galactic magnetic reversal, and that shell, while heated in the micronova to nuclear relevant temperatures, is in fact released via deflagration, as we continued to see discovered in space deflagration of the accumulated shell. Of course, we've seen the other planets continue their destabilizations. Mars' seismicity increased in magnitude again, and the biggest one lasted 90 minutes. Jupiter's great red spot is tightening, and the wind is speeding up like a ballerina pulling arms in to spin more quickly. And we got confirmation about Pluto. It did lose a fifth, 20% of its atmosphere in no more than 2 years, 2016 to 2018. The galactic sheet forcing this solar system shift continued to be flushed out mathematically in the models, but still showing too broad a region between galactic magnetic reversals. We did get some big confirmations of unmixed gases and waves of high-density clouds tens of parsecs apart. That should sound familiar. It's how I describe the gunk stuck to the electrostatic current sheet. We got a critical scalability confirmation about flux interactions from the heliopause out into galactic space, and it works exactly how...
Wait, you haven't been keeping track of that stuff? It's all there, dude.
I lost my way about 45 minutes ago, but I love what we're watching. I love it because it's interesting. This guy loves this.
I think that's but here's the problem. This is the problem.
Nothing builds on top of anything.
This is why Ancient Aliens was always really interesting to me, because all those people on that show believe what they're talking about, right? I never, ever have watched an episode of Ancient Aliens and thought, these guys don't even believe this shit. But man, I am just like, what the fuck now with them? I mean, because he's well above my fucking brain level with this stuff. So go ahead. But you were saying this is the problem. Okay, Jim, what's the problem?
Well, because I don't know if any of this stuff that he's showing on the screen is saying what he's saying it's saying. He flashes something up there for 15 seconds and it goes, quotes. I briefly read it and go, okay, I can understand what that is. And then it's gone. I don't know where these papers...
faster. We need to
like at 1.5 speed. And it's just a story. It might be true. It might not be true. I don't know. This is just as believable to me as the Anunnaki or evolution or the moon being hollow and a satellite sent here by the Anunnaki or Atlantis or ice ages. Like, how do we really know there was these miles of thick ice?
Well, they're still there, aren't they?
No.
Some, maybe.
Up north, yeah.
Well, in Greenland, I think.
Watching that show Terror, like you were saying, like that is pretty terrifying. Think your ship just gets caught in the ice like that.
So
how the Earth-Sun magnetic connection works at the polar cusps as well. We'd hear the same in the abstract for a talk coming next month, confirming the current sheet and Parker instability-like nature of the rippling galactic field is indeed not just observable, but workable into the models. All you need is nova-level energy along the way. You heard correctly. Now, they used supernova in the paper as an example, but mathematically, if the current sheet triggers superflares and micronova and dwarf nova along the way, you get the same, if not more, energy. And so let me go ahead and simplify what I just said for you. We have shown a lot of the evidence already. They know from the polarization, dust density, gamma signatures, and more that the galactic current sheet ripples every few tens of light years, bringing the galactic magnetic reversal. But they have never been able to quite make the observations fit into their models or the theory. Now, what it finally took to bring those models and theory up to the observations of the current sheet was nova-level energy along the way. You've got to be kidding me. After all this, the galactic magnetic triggering of the solar micronova and similar events throughout the galaxy is what it takes to complete the picture. Not on board yet? Let's add to everything we know about the Earth's rotation in the sun, and add in the fact that it's the thermosphere super rotation. It's faster rotation than the ground below.
Pause it, Jim.
He said a galactic mini nova.
Okay.
What the fuck? Okay, whole galaxy mini nova.
That just
mini
means
nova is one star, but it's the whole galaxy doing it.
Well, no, see, because if I could follow what he's saying this galactic current sheet that's going, it hits everything at different times as it's moving through, and it hits these different stars, causing them to do this. So all the stars it hits cause it to happen. It's affecting, Saturn and Jupiter. Like that storm on Jupiter started spinning in the opposite direction now. So what could cause that to happen? It would happen, and they could see it, and they're seeing these things that as it hits these things that are further away from us before it hits us. Some it'll hit after us. I don't know. Could be.
Being due to energy from above and geomagnetism. This, of course, must be true if all those other connections we've implied down to the core are true as well. Last but not least, folks, I think they finally spotted the dust. Their asteroid explanation is not a...
I spotted some dust once. It was angel dust, and it made me act crazy. I don't know why they call it angel dust, because you do not act like an angel when you're on it.
Dude, you are the ultimate experimenter. You're the ultimate well-read dude. Like dude, you've lived a very blessed life, Jim. I gotta say, man. Like, you've tried all this stuff. You've done other things with this stuff. You were able to retire before you're 50. Fuck. No, it's not hibbity-jibbity. Eric July is hibbity-jibbity. This is actually educated theory, Jim, right? It's educated theory based on what he has been tracking for years. Jim doing a Seinfeld routine. Why do they call it angel dust? Yeah, Jim is Mr. Educated. Remember Patrick Ewing?
Mm-hmm.
Boy, he was awesome.
Good one. And basically, they've just realized there's more dust in the solar system than there should be. And if that's not the prediction of the last 3 years come true, I'm really not sure what is.
Don't yell at me, Kevin.
One of the most foundational elements of this channel, one of the most markable moments in history, time and time again, and one of the most dire conditions of our modern existence is the weakening of Earth's magnetic field. We're going to dive deeper on a recent update to this ongoing event, and we will end by learning just how fast the magnetic field is going to be declining when it hits full speed. This week, we reviewed this article and discussed how the weakening magnetic field is beginning to allow significant penetration and advancement of charged particles into Earth's upper atmospheric layers. To understand just how significant of a change has taken place, we will look not at the polar fields wrapping around the globe, but the L shells, the smaller arcs that touch lower latitudes. And while they go up to L6 and beyond in theory, the innermost shells here are what are most important. The number corresponds to Earth radii altitude, so the L1.5 shell extends out to 1.5 Earth radii. The particles in focus in this paper are said to have dropped from a little less than 1 Earth radius.
Okay.
I just want you to know.
Down more than 500 kilometers, and that is not such a small change at all, especially when you consider that it's not been a constant drop, not by a long shot. The process has been accelerating, making this a direct measurement of one of the scariest potential events for an excitement of that lowest L shell in a solar superstorm. Both of those animations are from NASA and represent what happens when the sun juices up those fields in modern-day regular storms, and when a major event happens, modeled with a magnetar burst. That'd be fun on Earth, eh? Now, this outlook of sustained acceleration to significant levels makes us ask, well, just how fast can this magnetic event unfold on Earth? Well, for that, it helps to look at curves. This is literally the best resolution graphic that paper had to offer, which is absurd. But top right, we have the drop in altitude over time, but with a straight regression line that obviously does not capture the true nature of the curve, which is accelerating downward. And so, I just copied that real curve onto a blank sheet, and we can start from here. Folks, I've looked at the data of the magnetic field weakening enough to know that this curve of particle penetration looks pretty darn close to the overall field loss. So, how fast are things going to get? Well, first, let's review where we are now.
That's
the most
legit.
famous announcement of the 10% field loss was in the year 2000 by NASA. Here, we not only learned about the weakening field, but that the magnetic poles were shifting and speeding up. In the north, this modern shift began in 1859, coincident with the Great Carrington Event solar storm, and the North Pole has now gone over the top, as they say, and is heading southward towards Siberia. During this time, the South Magnetic Pole has been on a slower saunter, but is way out in the lead, already having left the continent of Antarctica. In 2010, the European Space Agency updated that number from 10% to 15%, which is really a psychotically huge jump from the 10% lost from 1859 up to 2000. But it was real, and the leader of the mission measuring Earth's magnetic field made no bones about the fact that Earth's magnetic field was getting ready to flip. He quickly and very quietly lost his position shortly after revealing that Earth's magnetic field had gone from losing 5% per century to 5% per decade. This put a lot of folks on notice, especially those who were repeatedly proving that these events are extinction-level moments for many species and major hits to the biosphere, and doing so in the top journals, and for those tracking the field across the world and showing how rapidly this event is happening while we all clamor over COVID and climate change. Folks, we are in big trouble. For those who forget, the official science says that when she goes fast, 100 times the mark used by NASA's 5% per century, severely extreme. And by the way, that would be 5% lost per year, about 1% every 72 days. When she goes, it's going to be a couple years at most. That's not a joke. This is not a joke. At 5% loss per decade, we are now down 20% or more. And if Earth's magnetic field accelerates again, it is very bad news. And as many of you probably recall, it is very likely that it has accelerated again in the 2019 and 2020 geomagnetic jerk after the more regionally focused shift in 2017. Below this video, you will find a playlist, the playlist, detailing what this cycle is on Earth, how terrible it has been in the past, and how we're due in the cycle timeline again. And what do you know? Observational evidence of every kind indicates that fate appears unwilling to show mercy or alter her gate for the sake of our vanity. And she's at the front gates right now. And we are back to the end of December 2021. Here are the key works up to this point since the last postlude, just a couple of months ago. Let's ease into it with more geomagnetic biology.
I would have preferred to take a couple of ludes.
Yeah. There's only 14 minutes left though, right? So
yep,
we're close. This has been super interesting. You're just like, okay, so I know he's got these lots for sale, Jim, right? He does have that for sale out there. This video was made way before that though, right?
Yeah.
But he has created a place for people to escape to if they so desire, which is cool. It is a cool thing. But the 2030, 2040, if it's really in that realm of the 12,000 years, if they can really date it back to the 12,000s this close, Jim, it does bring some real legitimacy to things, right? Like maybe, right? But this,
how accurate? The question is, how accurate are their readings saying that these things happened every 12,000 years? How close are they? You know what I mean? Is it sometimes 11,000 years? Is it sometimes 13,000 years? Is it sometimes 15,000 years?
Plus, we know the core samples aren't as good. Well, like the core samples aren't as good as they say they are because they found World War II planes deeper than older stuff, right? In these core samples. Yeah.
Well, maybe stuff moves around, maybe stuff sinks. I don't know.
Or maybe the drill mixes it all up going down, like it just, this is heavier batter, so it went deeper. Who knows? I wouldn't mind New Zealand going from sub-Antarctic, subtropical to subtropical. Well, I'm going to say one thing about Illinois. This climate is definitely switching over, Jim. We only had, I think, 3 days all summer so far, past 90 degrees. And I got snow. I got less than 4 inches of snow 2 years in a row in Illinois. And I'm on the north side of Illinois. I'm not south. Like the snow is, thank God, fuck the snow. Fuck the cold. The older there's a reason people move to Florida or the South, Jim, when they get old. The fucking cold sucks.
Yeah,
it sucks. The cold sucks.
It's been a hot summer in Texas. The heat just finally broke recently.
But he's not an organization, Wrathchild78. That's the cool thing. And he's not saying this is a world-ending event. He's just saying be prepared. Be prepared to the best of your ability and try and survive this stuff. Because if you do, you will make it, because it's not a nuclear event, Jim. It's just going to wipe a bunch of stuff out that you're used to using every day in your daily life. Your cell phones will be gone. Your favorite YouTubers. We build
Faraday cages around our stuff.
Well, they ain't doing it yet, Nicholas, and they better get busy. They better start like in Florida, there's entire neighborhoods where the entire electrical system is buried underground. There's no above ground transformers. There's no above ground
because of the hurricanes and stuff.
No, for aesthetics. Like, these people got money and they build these subdivisions, and that shit's hidden. Like, fucking transformers don't get affected by hurricanes when they're on top of the ground. When on the poles, that's a different story. But like, they literally buried
2004, like, leveled so much of the trees, like in the
Right.
Orlando area. I remember.
Yeah, all the pole electric is fucked. But I mean, they bury the transformers, which looks great, but nobody knows where the transformers are on their property, so they're burying shit on top of their transformers. And when there's a fault, they rip out all of their goddamn landscaping. It's the funniest shit ever. They're like, well, hey, you got an easement back here, lady. We're not going to replace this shit. Well, oh man, have a good, I don't know where you're at, Rothschild, but have a good day or night at work. Sucks to go to work this late, but if it's early morning, have a great day. No above ground GI Joes. I know it sucks. All right. Let's finish our 14 minutes, Jim.
Okie dokie.
Add foraging struggles to the long list of insults to the biosphere amidst the ongoing and upcoming magnetic field event, with yet another confirmation of the criticality of field guidance for finding locations for reproduction. The puzzles of the Earth and stars continued with the revelation that the Earth can produce all the elements up to number 25, and in the same week that elemental synthesis in the cosmos was declared uncertain, with a vastly different view painted through a magnetic lens. The LLSVPs protruding from the core have sisters, and they were mapped as being the opposite character, in between the internal asymmetries on which we usually focus. They still love to blame a comet, and they keep having to add to the number of its fragments to account for the increasingly global character of the event and the evidence. We learned that in the biggest solar outburst, we might not get the waiting time of the sea and the impact. A big enough flare's X-rays would cause instant EMP conditions from...
Yeah, he doesn't believe a comet or whatever. Like, there's Graham Hancock and well, Graham doesn't know. He thinks comets. He's not really committed to what he thinks caused the Younger Dryas. Randall Carlson believes it was the comet impact hypothesis or whatever,
or solar flares, right? One of the two. Like is it?
He thinks that it was probably more of
monsters,
meteor or an asteroid.
Yeah, like asteroid or impact hypothesis.
From its upper atmospheric effects, not at all unlike a nuclear detonation in the stratosphere, which would also cause an EMP at the surface. We learn more about how the interplanetary magnetic field and solar current sheet work the Earth's electromagnetic activity. We can translate that up to the Sun and a galactic current sheet scale, including yet another complete reversal of an electrodynamic microsystem due to such an interaction. All the discussion about the Taurus jet current sheet model continue to be confirmed. With the discovery of helical, DNA-shaped magnetic fields around a galactic jet, it's more evidence of the whole, the galactic magnetic system. We're moving on next to more confirmation of a variety of disasters that accompany the catastrophe cycle. The Heinrich and Dansgaard-Oeschger cycles have been robustly confirmed, even going back as far as the event 60,000 years ago. And by that, I mean their synchronicity. Their alignment with the major climatological shifts got more evidence as well, and these shifts make modern global warming look like nothing. We see how the 6,000-year cycle behavior is vastly different from the 1,500-year cycle effects, and this is, of course, due to those thresholds of forcing that tip heating into an ice melt cold climate bomb. And while seeing the pattern enough is enough to see the truth, it also helps when they are making great progress on the mechanisms of how and why these are synchronized, which is the point of the solar forcing of those cycles. The Heinrichs must follow because they're an extreme version of a DO event, one that crossed that threshold. Earth's magnetic field has continued to weaken, and we learned that while the North Pole may be moving faster, the South Polar region has gotten much weaker, largely because the South Pole has exited Antarctica already. I honestly didn't think we'd even get that first piece of evidence that the dust had arrived, but Parker delivered evidence that the corona of the sun is dustier than expected, and that's number 2. We entered the holidays with 2 papers on the docket regarding the observational evidence of the radial nature of the galactic magnetic fields, just like the radial pattern we've scaled up from the solar system, and add on top of that the confirmation of what the community speculated all those months ago, that the Radcliffe wave is not isolated but part of a larger system, driven by that same structure that means such a scary thing for our star at the end of an age and the start of a new one. Hey folks, I've got 3 charts for you here. One easy, one intermediate, and one advanced level. If you pride yourself on having watched all the content and knowing the full scale of the catastrophe cycle, all of this should be familiar to you. A good test. And feel free to screenshot these for your sharing once you do feel you fully comprehend them. First is the weakening of the magnetic field, and the blue line shows how we got up to here, and then a continuation with no further accelerations to the weakening field. The colorful breakout point is from right now. The red is where the ESA swarm manager told us we had about 100 to 200 years before he got fired. The yellow is a slow advance to that 5% per year mark we mentioned in that special video from about a week ago in this paper. And the green shows the curve to approximately Doug Vogt's 2046 date, and the orange curve shows what happens if we basically shot to 5% field loss per year right now. My absolute best guess is that we will be somewhere around here, between the orange and the green lines. My best guess on the crescendo of the disaster. And of course, I do continue to insist you keep in mind that the bad stuff begins earlier, potentially years before, when the field gets too weak to protect our electrified way of life. That's well before the crescendo. The second chart is one I've talked about updating a fair bit, almost a year now, most notably in the inclusion of the next to last column on the right. Finally got it in there. Whether or not the early effects would be seen. Now for veterans, you've likely seen this chart before, and its purpose is to show how the combination of the galactic current sheet and the punctuation of the solar micronova is the only way to explain all the evidence that seems to come at the same time every cycle. That new column is specifically for the effects we're tracking now, which would really only be seen with a magnetic excursion and the micronova scenario. The magnetic excursion only scenario actually fails as well when you realize it wouldn't be affecting the other planets. Dr. Paul Laviolette himself suggested there is no pregame to his superwave. When it arrives, it's all over. This leaves only one option to include that crescendo and everything we're tracking up to it. That option is in blue. But speaking of the other planets and all the things changing right now, forget the past for a moment and let's focus on the now. This chart compiles all the key Earth changes in red, the other planets, the sun and interplanetary space in yellow, and the other stars nearby in blue. I highly suggest you look through this and see if there is any part of it on which you don't feel solid. These 3 charts we saw here are among dozens that could be used in catastrophism, but they're also a very good progression of a simple and understandable curve on a chart up to what happens each cycle and what we are dealing with now. And then finally here, to all the evidence that it's happening again. For the most part, you are all here for the same reason. You have something in common. Despite various anxieties over changes on the Earth or risks from the sun, and despite your hopes ranging from sustained calm to let's just get it over already, you all recognize and are curious to know more about and follow these changes as they relate to our way of life and our interaction with the planet, the sun, the galaxy, and beyond. It turns out, there are some people you've probably heard of who have something in common with you. Most of the time when I discuss individuals of varying celebrity, I'm making fun of something they've said. And when I'm being more serious, the chorus rises in the comment section that I should avoid politics or culture. Please. If you haven't been under a rock the last few years, you know this isn't politics. It's Agenda 21, the 30-30 plan, the New Green Deal, and the taking control of the world. This is our lives. When it's Bill Maher repeatedly having the stones to call out his own side for being hypocritical bad faith frauds, it's time to look in the mirror. When this lady implies that the false veil of public propaganda messaging is real and then stands her ground, crushing her opposition, I get butterflies. Are you seeing what I'm seeing? Today, I don't want to focus on the geopolitical revolt ongoing among literally everyone with a brain. I want to discuss the ones who have the prepping mind, eyes open mentality that brings you back here for the series, daily updates, and documentaries. Hopefully, we all recall the disaster plan of the world's richest man, Jeff Bezos, hollowing out a mountain right next to his launch facility in West Texas. The Sierra Diablos probably are going to fare quite well in the upcoming cyclical disaster, but if they don't, he can go up or down. I don't buy this tunnel stuff any more than the thousands of you who have publicly speculated about why Musk is so darn interested in digging down and going up. This is his, remember. If you didn't know that the rich are prepping, hope you enjoyed the ignorant bliss. Many are more ready and plan to stay steady than most people think about, and the number of celebrities with disaster prep is growing too. Zooey Deschanel has it ingrained in her, you can tell. George Clooney and his elite lawyer wife have more than fancy paintings in their residence, and the same goes for Lady Gaga. And Post Malone, free shout out for Spencer Confidential on Netflix. Yeah, I watch stuff too. If you survive a catastrophe near Rhonda's residence, you should expect her to meet you in the aftermath and then pound your face in. But today, we're on to the Kardashians, and the last couple days, I have been keeping up. Some of you may have heard about her recent construction problems. Her neighbor basically claims she is building a bunker or vault underground. She says it's basically just an underground wellness area. If you saw her interest in survival bunkers a few months ago and it's hard for you to now buy that this isn't exactly the very same thing, then we have something in common. I just want to remind everyone that while the best possible evidence is the observational science and the ability to predict what happens next, when you see the celebrities turning on the powers that be, and when you see so many
I don't know about building an underground bunker in California where they have these massive earthquakes. It seems like a bad idea.
Well, they're also like 10 miles from the ocean, 5 miles from the ocean. Like,
seems like a bad idea to me, but
billionaires and celebrities taking
they got
actions that
private
fall
jets.
relatively in
Get on
line
your
with what
fucking
you would
plane
do
and
if
go
you
to your
had their
bunker.
money
What the
and
hell?
knew the science. The appropriate reaction is to come back to that mirror, look yourself in the eyes, and know you are on point. It's time to keep our heads up, eyes open, and to use these signals of all kinds to inform our attention and action, rather than a fear reaction. I'll see you in the morning for the daily update on all those secret little things you have in common with billionaires, celebrities, and secretive government organizations. Be safe, everyone.
Yes.
That same sort of luck that will leave survivors worldwide afar from tsunamis and volcanoes and ice storms will be the same sort of luck made for people by themselves by being prepared and getting that head start. In terms of best chance to prolong your use of these devices, don't rely on batteries. Find a small solar panel, portable, with USB output, and get devices that have USB charging capability. There's no reason you might not be able to use those devices for a long time. A long time. Yes, then there is the long haul. Provided we aren't all whisked underground into an unimaginable catacomb beneath us and the greatest feat of engineering in history, there is no reason you cannot do what your ancestors did. You may not live that way now, and you may be dependent on electricity, but the fact that we know how they lived back then means we have the tools at our fingertips in the age of information. How convenient it would rise before the fall. Here is a bit more on the intellectual side of prepping, but from a non-tangible perspective, a scene from one of the episodes preceding this infomentary. This event would be extreme. You can survive it, but the shock and awe to the circuitry inside is real. If you've ever seen someone in legitimate shock, you know that. That cannot be you if your children are depending on you. This fortress must be ready. A key aspect of mental practice is informational. Situational awareness is key, and as example, I'll use New Mexico, where I live. Good to know where the waterways are, especially in a desert. Even a small stream nearby can be a bounty. If you know about local elevation, that helps too, especially in relation to ocean proximity, snowcaps, or other temperature change between peak and canyon at the same latitude. Other sites to know, and everyone knows Carlsbad Caverns around here, so maybe some others might make your list. Certainly the mining operation maps of your local area could be good in case you need to flee cosmic plasma or into the warmer rock of the crust. And for the same reason, the cavern systems of your area are good things to know as well. It is critical that you apply these basic principles to your own situation, for your own awareness, to mitigate the system shock of the event. There is no real way to prepare for what terrified our ancestors, what glazed the moon, and which may happen again. But you simply don't have time to think about these things at that moment. It is as important to understand them now as it is to stock food, water, and seeds. So what are the two key aspects to mental prepping here of the non-tangible nature? First, this event will be shocking, but even knowing what could be coming gives you a heads up on the completely uninformed. Strength is key in those moments when courage is the most elusive. Second, some of you will want to bug out to safe locations, others will want to stay in your castle with all your supplies. That decision cannot be made on the fly. You don't have time to plot a route or figure out if you're staying or going. You don't have time to go get those books at the store. You have to have a certain amount of mental prepping done beforehand.
Nice.
So anyway, if anyone's interested, well, there's more, but the channel's called Suspicious Observers on YouTube, and
770,000 subs.
Yeah, it's it's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of science, dude. It's not like Ancient Aliens where, hey, they just break it down for the modern guy. Hey, but fine. He's I thought he was going to be dry. He's not dry, Jim, at all. He's actually you can tell you can tell that he actually does a lot of speaking in public. He doesn't hem and haw. He just, I don't even hear like where edits are going on. You know what I'm saying, Nicholas? It's just like one long flow.
Yeah, it does tend to sound. Even though there is some weird like pops in there that might come from.
You know what I did not hear at all tonight at all while he was talking?
What? Well, I was just thinking about this. tomorrow night's probably going to be a double stream night because we have to do our Friday Justified, right?
Oh, Justified.
Yep. So we'll do that like 7 or 8, end it, and then come back later for a later stream, and we'll do all this Eric July shit that we got piled up because we got a lot piled up. We didn't get to shit last night. So we'll do a double stream tomorrow. So we'll have a Justified, have some fun with that, and then come back hour or two later and be ready to go for some detracting. But I think we're going to end it tonight, guys. It's been a fun stream. I learned a lot. I learned that Nicholas doesn't believe in anything. He thinks it's all bullshit. That we live in.
I question things. I ask questions.
You do ask questions. Yes, you do. That's why you're here. And you should.
Let me ask you a question.
Let me ask you a question.
That was Jim Carrey.
Yeah. You guys have a great night. We'll talk tomorrow. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you.
Good night, everybody. Thanks for coming out. Please don't forget to tip your waitress, like and subscribe to the video.
Share it with your friends. Make this